be inside where it's
Test.
warm.
Test.
That's a whole the dog didn't want it, and the cat. The dog and the cat got in here. Oh, can I know if they can help? It has two lights. We'll see. What is? Yeah, see, this is all there is. Yeah, that's pretty good. Grandma's gotta get the coolest gifts. He thought it was the best gift ever. Yes, they're not for 80. You know how I do. I'm also watching a show. Yes, my Spanish teacher said that he says English. See, all the songs in English. You don't switch. He says them in English and he starts over in Spanish. And then he'll start over in English and go to Spanish. We flipped.
We can watch, and then he'll report to him so much that his dad is going to start watching it in turn.
All right, everybody, we'll go ahead and we'll call the meeting to order. I need a motion to declare this an open meeting.
Make a motion to declare the meeting.
I'll second.
Motion by Bobby, second by Hannah. Hannah?
Yes.
Bobby?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Jason, yes, we are in open. We welcome our visitors to the meeting tonight. As per the law, the Board of Education does adhere to the Open Meeting Act, and a copy of that act is posted on the wall to my right. This meeting has been properly advertised according to policy and the Nebraska Opens Meeting Act. Go ahead and review the consent agenda.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda. Second.
Motion by Hope, second by Bobby. We'll start with, any questions?
No.
Sorry,
Item 1.
Bobby,
No.
Mark or Hannah?
No.
I'd like to add, I'd point out that it's a pretty sizable one. When we had the big snow, a lot of snow sitting on our level flat roofs, we started to get water making its way into the high school, into the auditorium, and also into some spots in the, above the band room area, that water was leaking in. So we called White Castle. We used to use, Weathercraft, but White Castle actually came in low when we did the bed to replace the flat surface on the gym. So we called them down, and they found a number of spots that water was getting in. It had to do with the flat roof above, like the atrium and auditorium area. They had to come in and put new stripping there. They had to come along and put new stripping, reattach the EPDM membrane to the side of the brick wall above, like the band room and locker room areas, to the west of the gymnasium. And that's why that price tag is so sizable. But that's just kind of the wear and tear of a building. You gotta maintain those things.
So they fixed the leak in the roof then?
Yeah, well, I guess if we get this big snow like they're talking about, and when it starts melting, we'll see what happens. But that's the hope, is that they fix it.
Any more questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and open up the floor for public comment. Wait, sorry, we didn't, sorry, before I. Bobby?
Yes.
Hope?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Jason, yes. Hannah?
Yes.
Motion carried. Very good. Now we'll open up the public comment. At this time, the board policy, we will allow up to 5 minutes per speaker with a maximum total allotted time for public comment not to exceed 30 minutes. Hearing or seeing none, I'll go ahead and we will go on to the next portion of the agenda with employment. Approve the requests for resignation or retirement. The only one there is Mr. Corey Forge's resignation as a teacher at the end of the 2024-2025 school year.
I make a motion to approve with regret for Mr. Corey for his resignation letter at the end of the 24-25 school year.
I second.
Motion by Bobby, second by Hannah. Do we discuss any of this?
I don't. There's nothing to be discussed there.
All right, we'll go ahead and vote with Hope.
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Jason, yes. Hannah?
Yes.
And Bobby?
Yes.
Motion carried. Informational reports. We'll start with the counselor.
Some of our college visit feedback is from the visits that we took in December, so we're just kind of catching up from there. December 12th, I took the 9th grade class to UNL, just kind of included their feedback there. Really like the facilities, all you can eat buffet, a little leery on the dorms, but really like the experience. January 23rd, we took a visit to Peru State, took 3 students. They definitely like the small town feel, the kindness, just opportunities that are there. On January 30th, I collaborated with Mr. Bloss, and he was able to take a group of 8 students to Acres in Syracuse for a Jumpstart Day, all about their Jumpstart Scholarship Program. On February 4th, we took 8th graders to UNO. That was 19 students that we took. That was part of an 8th grade visit grant that I got for Education Quest. And it was a really good experience. The kids liked the housing, the equipment, the food, just like the overall experience, and the stuff that we talked about on the visit really correlates to what we do in careers class. So I think they're really starting to see the connections. Our next visit with 8th graders is in April. We're going to go to SEC Lincoln and then Duncan Aviation. So we're going to hit both of those. And then February 5th, we're going to go to SEC Milford for John Deere Tech Day. Actually, they did go to that. And then upcoming, you'll see there, we have a couple more SEC Milford, Nebraska Wesleyan, and then careers in healthcare. So busy spring for visits. For leadership, the elementary group, we just recently met. They really like their PBIS trivia questions and also want to do some sort of food drive project. So we're going to get some ideas going there. Middle school, we are going to be helping with those school tours for our superintendent interviews and also for the CIP external visits. So they're excited to show their school off. The micro-credential is really interesting. I recently achieved that through UNO, Youth Career Counseling. I learned of this through the training through Education Quest. It was really, really great. Learned a lot of good information. We've already been introducing that in the 8th grade careers class. If you have a chance and want to look up what Mike Smith is doing in Lincoln with his design thinking courses, it's really cool with what he has started. SEC registration is already starting for fall, actually, Monday, March 24th. If you would like to come to that, I do a dual credit informational night for sophomores and their parents. We do a free meal as part of my college access grant, presentation, and then an application time. Lots of changes are coming down from SEC Lincoln, so I anticipate it looking just a little bit different for us. The 25-26 schedule, work has begun on that. Mr. Ness and I have made a lot of headway with that. Once it's complete, I meet with all the students individually. We look at their graduation requirements. What do you want life to look like after Pawnee City, and then we make a plan that best fits them. FAFSA completion, this is new this year, graduation requirement in the state of Nebraska. So we've been really working to incentivize that. So I'm really pleased with our completion so far. Out of the 19 seniors, 14 have completed their FAFSA, which is really great. And at the end of each month, we have drawings for Visa gift cards for anyone who has completed them. So I think it really entices them to complete it. Again, I can't see any of their tax information. I can just see yes or no if they've done it or not. For scholarships, this is the start of really busy scholarship season. But as soon as I get a notice of it, I put it to the school website, I share it with students, I share it with parents, and the seniors, they've been working really, really hard on those scholarship applications, and my office has been pretty busy with them getting a head start, so. Any questions for me?
I don't have a question, but I keep forgetting to tell you that we do have a foundation date,
Okay, great.
and I can't remember now. I
Okay.
think it's February 20th.
Okay.
Is that right, Hannah?
Yeah.
Okay, that'd be good.
But I'll double check tomorrow and
Perfect. All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. Ness?
Mostly activity updates for me this time. Just some things that are coming up and a few that have happened. FFA, National FFA Week is coming up. Mr. Bloss has stuck to the same schedule as before, so you can kind of see in there what each day brings. We had a couple of students that got awards at the Conference Art Show that happened last week in conjunction with the basketball tournament. So Isaac received third place in the printmaking category, and Larkin honorable mention in ceramics. It was great to see that. Other activity related stuff, basketball, just a couple highlights. The girls made it to the Mead SB Division Championship game. The boys ended up third place in conference. Then we got parent and senior night coming up this tomorrow with Axel. So that's always a busy night, and with the impending weather too, I'm sure that'll be on everyone's mind. UDAC's speech happened. The kids are doing really well so far. They're supposed to have conference speech this week too. It's supposed to be Wednesday at Lewiston, so we'll kind of see what the weather brings. But they're, I think, sitting in a good position to do well at conference speech too. Track, nothing major yet because it's still off a little ways, but they released the spring classifications, and we're again in Class D as expected. Mr. Strong would have let me hear about it right away if we weren't. So, again, our district looks to be about the same. They've shuffled a couple of schools. Johnson isn't in our district this year. McCool still is, mostly the same. I was able to talk to the associate director at the NSA about the districts to get a little bit more insight in how they assign the schools. And so that's been helpful for us as we talk with the coaching staff about track and how it's going to look. Wrestling, we had hosted our one home meet of the year this year, and that was that double duel with Fall City and JCC, and it was neat to have it here. It was a learning experience for me. It went really well thanks to Mr. Farabee, and it was really cool to get to see the kids compete here. So they're still going strong. They have districts coming up this week. They start Friday and then go on Saturday, and that's at Wilcox, so they're way out west. But so we've got the 4 boys wrestling there, and I think all of them feel good about their chances to do well at districts. So then let's see, new season starting. Just a couple of things to bring up. Junior high wrestling and quiz bowl both started practicing too. So lots of things going on. Some miscellaneous notes. We hosted one of the recent ESU principal cadre visits. That's essentially just it's organized through the ESU. Dr. Gosman organizes those, and it travels from school to school within our ESU region. The host site principal will generally have everyone come in, discuss any initiatives that are happening within the school. We take question and answer time, give tours. It's a chance for principals from mostly small schools that don't have large admin teams to talk through things with other people, other peers. So that's always really valuable. I haven't had a chance to make it to any others this year. So I hope to this spring. We all went to Engaging Educators at Peru last Friday. There were some really good sessions. There was a good speaker that involved a harmonica. It was the speaker. I always find that as one of the most interesting parts each year. They always have a new keynote speaker, and it's generally not someone that's from our region or someone that we're familiar with. So usually it's someone we haven't seen before. And so whether it's an intriguing message or just a new perspective, it's always neat to see that. I won't dwell on that on the schedule because Mrs. Blecka already mentioned it, but we finally have a working draft with just a couple of wrinkles to iron out. We're a little bit behind. We would have liked to have a draft, 3 or 4 weeks ago, but we're trying to get to a point where we're not making large schedule changes each year. We'd really like to get to a point where we have a workable model, but there have been major changes that we've wanted to see, and so we knew we weren't there yet. There's some things this year like adding an ACT prep opportunity for juniors that we really wanted to make sure we were intentional about getting in, so took a little extra time to do that. So we have a working draft now that we're about ready to take to staff for feedback, so. And then kind of the last thing is cable guy prep. You know, we all know that's coming up on Friday, and we expect a large volume of people here. So we think we have everything ready to go. I've been in communication with his staff, and they seem happy with our plans. So I'm kind of excited for everyone to be here. Hopefully it'll be a fun night for everybody. It's an exciting thing for our school. So, any questions about any of that? Okay. All right, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, I have enrollment at the top. I don't believe it has changed the last few months, which is nice. For staffing updates, I won't get into a lot of the details about the sped staffing, because we'll talk about that, I feel, when we get into the conversation about administration. But I do want to talk about, well, I would add, we haven't posted a sped teacher opening yet, because that will kind of be contingent upon the conversation that we'll have here in just a little bit. But I have posted a couple openings. The Infotech, the business Infotech opening has been posted. We've also posted it, as we have it currently structured, middle school science and social studies. And so far, haven't gotten much for bites on either one of those. Tried something new this year. Handshake is a website that is for college, and I've used that before, and I've posted openings on it before, but it's a platform that most of the institutions utilize. I think they push their seniors to and even underclassmen to it as they're starting to look for jobs. And I did a paid subscription on Handshake this year. It's kind of pricey. I just canceled it today. It tried 2 weeks, and I tried to promote the Infotech position. I guess it gives it kind of preferential placement as they go in and see these jobs come across their feed. I've gotten a lot of interest from out of non-U.S. citizen type people that aren't native to the United States, which I don't think we're probably to a point where that's a direction we maybe want to go yet. So I just wanted you to know that I'm doing everything I can to try to get exposure for some of these positions and try to get it staffed. Did get one application today that, having not done a lot of research on it, that may have a little potential on the business Infotech position. And then the SPED opening hasn't been posted yet. Like I said, that'll kind of wait to take the guidance from the board this evening on that and what direction to go. The Iowa Lighthouse Study, this is something I just wanted to put on there because we have some new members on the board. We've got more. We've got a couple new members that have come on, don't have a lot of boardsmanship experience. I thought I might take the opportunity to share that as well. And I also wanted to take this time to talk a little bit about some opportunities that I think might be beneficial for the board. But pertaining to the Iowa Lighthouse Study, every month there's a variety of different trainings that are available through our attorneys, the KSB School of Law. They now have their own online portal, and then you could log in. And I believe you may recall that I shared out the pre-recorded videos last fall. This one was it was the first of the year, and since they kind of align it with when new board members come on, and I thought it was a good opportunity, because anytime you hear Marcia Herring talk or any one of those new board member orientation, you hear the reference to the Iowa Lighthouse Study, which is done by the school. Wasn't like an East Coast, West Coast thing. It's been done over a couple decades in the state, directly to the east of us by the School Boards Association over there. And, I'm oversimplifying here probably, but in broad terms, what they have found is a pretty strong correlation between highly functional boards and student performance. When boards tend to be more functional, kids tend to perform better. When boards tend to be less functional, kids tend to not perform well. I don't know that they've got a hard causality type of due to that, but that can't be just a coincidence. And I put a copy of I went ahead and looked up the Lighthouse study and put it on there and linked the video. I don't have the URL there, but I linked the video if you have any interest in watching that. Now, that was an hour-long video. Something I shared with Jason, he wasn't sure. He said, we'll have to talk to the board about that. But an opportunity that I thought might be useful, since we have some new board members coming on and potentially either some experienced board members or another board member that maybe doesn't have any experience after tonight's meeting. Those videos, I don't know if anyone's had much of an opportunity to watch those videos. There were 10 of them. They're just 10 kind of concise little videos that touch on the big ideas about different things. So I think the first one has to do with confidentiality, maybe, and another one has to do with board members' personal liability on issues. Another one has to do with student discipline. Another one has to do with special education discipline, those sort of things. Each one's about 10 minutes long. A thought I had that might be useful in the coming months is to try to watch a couple of those every night as a board. Just set a TV up in here for a board meeting, play a 10-minute video, maybe play a couple of them, and just use, since it's hard because of our work schedules to get away and do some of these training offsite, maybe try to, when you're here anyway and the time that you've got booked out, I know it's going to make your Monday nights a little longer, but maybe spend a little time watching those videos. And then if there was any questions, we could discuss it here at the table. I don't know. What are your thoughts about doing something like that?
I just have a thought.
It'll be beneficial.
I mean, ultimately, I thought it would be very beneficial for all of us to do. I just, with all of our extra meetings right now, I didn't know if adding another thing.
How long are the videos?
Well, they're about 10 minutes. So if we watch 2 a night, it would tag on an extra 20, 25 minutes. If we watch 3 a night, we could, my thought is if we do 2 or 3 a night for the next 4 or 5 months, we can get through them all before I get out of here and try to get you some, cover some of the basic foundational boardsmanship stuff that board members need to know before the next person.
So are these different than the ones that you sent out?
They are the ones. I was
They are
talking,
the same
just
ones.
watch
Okay.
those specific ones. Since
Okay.
that was part of our package subscription this year, just go ahead and watch them during board meetings. And that way, if there's questions or, general comments, we'll be sitting together. Another thing, I did reach out to Marcia Herring. You may recall, some of you, that we tried to schedule a retreat where we get away and have a retreat. It just didn't really work with anyone's schedule. Marcia would be willing to come down here sometime after the board, after you get all the meetings done for the superintendent selection. She would be willing to come down here some evening too and run a 2-hour work session where she just touched on some of these big topics. And that would be an opportunity for you to ask questions. And I feel like that could be another opportunity for you to, especially with new board members coming on, to get a little bit of that. So I've kind of left it at that with her, but if there's an interest in that, maybe I could look at some dates that might work for her to come down, like April, May timeframe. I know that's busy.
I think it's worth a try.
Okay.
Yeah. That conference that we went to was very beneficial and informative. I don't think it would be a waste of time.
And she's just going to touch on, there's, as you know, those of you who've gone to it in the past, that there's a lot of information to go over. So it's just going to be high level stuff. Probably going to be a little bit of a repeat of the kind of the new board member orientation, but it's kind of nice probably to hear it from someone else too, and hear it again, and then be able to ask questions from someone who does those sort of things all the time. That's what they do for a living, and so they can help answer questions you might have. So, okay, well, I'll move forward with both of those as part of that. Math acceleration article, you know, talked a lot about the math acceleration. I think it's been a great thing that's happened in our school system. Just since it has been a great thing and our teachers have done a lot of work on it, I thought you might be interested in knowing that Dr. Gospin was published. If you've ever done like upper level grad school, you know, that's kind of a big deal to get published in a scholarly journal, and we were her data, you know, that's where her data came from. So if you're interested, I put it in tiny print, but I put a copy of her article in the packet as well. Something else that's worth noting is just that if anyone was able to hear when we had our safety, I don't know if anyone in here was able to come to that. Jay Martin from the Department of Ed, we had him come down. He talked to our students during school. He talked to our staff right after school, and then we had an open session where about 20 parents were able to come in that evening. And Jay Martin's the Director of Safety and Security. And one thing he encouraged schools to do is make sure if you've done all these things, that these minimum requirements that are not requirements, but are recommendations for school safety, be sure and document that and submit it to them. And if you have reached a high enough threshold, then they give out what they refer to as the Safety and Security Diamond Badge recognition. So I thought it was kind of nice for our school to be recognized as a district that has done all these steps. That I think sometimes you're doing things behind, you know, when teachers grumble when we have to do another fire drill, because nobody likes a fire drill. But those things make a difference and help you be prepared for something if it really happens. And so those little things, like we have threat assessment meetings, and we did the threat assessment training this past summer, something that we've talked about doing for a long time and finally had the opportunity to get that. So those little things do add up, and they do make your kids safer. And having that diamond badge, I think is a worthy accolade for the district, and that was pushed out on socials since the last board meeting, a few months ago, I think. Wanted to follow up. I don't think we're to a point tonight where we can really do anything with the HVAC situation, but right after the last board meeting, I reached out to Greg and let him know what the board had said, that there was a strong interest to move forward with the I would say a recognition by the board, a strong recognition by the board that it was necessary to move forward with the high school building VRF system, and an interest to at least solicit bids for the gym and to see what that brought about. He said he's going to need a couple of weeks before he can get started on it. I did reach out to him last week, and he said he was just starting to look at some of the equipment. I know Mark has spoken with him, I've spoken with him, he knows that we're interested in reducing costs as much as possible to get a product, I think, that is going to, and I say reduce costs as much as possible. I mean, if we were to move forward with air conditioning on the gym, it would be more feasible if we could maybe reduce tonnage, cut unnecessary expenses anywhere possible to where the project might be more palatable moving forward. And with that, I did also reach out to D.A. Davidson, which is a financing company. They work exclusively with financing for public entities, which means that they're generally associated with bond issues or financing along those lines, either a traditional bond or a QC Puff bond or a lease purchase type situation. And they handle all of that. And so I had to go up to Lincoln anyway for a meeting. And so I was up there, I was able to coordinate it, and I was able to sit down with them and meet and talk. And the information I got, I felt was relatively favorable. You may recall that I kind of talked about $500,000 might be the additional financing we need to be able to move forward with a project on both the gym and the high school at the same time. In my mind, if the board was interested in getting financing for that, the most common sense approach would be, or just the most feasible approach, maybe common sense isn't the right word, but the most manageable approach would be through a QC Puff bond, like the bond that just sunset. And so I was actually a little pleased to learn that the financing, these weren't like hard quote, this was a soft quote, but it's based on recent projects that they funded. Interest rates on a 10-year bond like that would be roughly 4.5%, which is significantly below what you see like in the mortgage market right now. And the reason for that is because, as they explained to me, is because we are a tax exempt entity, and because we're tax exempt, we don't pay those additional fees that you do when you get a mortgage loan. And so you're just paying strictly the interest on the bonds. And so he said 4.5% was very reasonable for a 10-year bond, and that would result in an annual payment of approximately $62,000. I have one too many zeros on there after the comma. $62,500, which at our current valuation would be the equivalent of 1.58 cents of additional loan. So that work, that research has been done. So I know last time at the January board meeting, I shared that was kind of a guess on my behalf, just based on some of the research I'd done. This is a harder number. So $500,000 in financing paid over 10 years would cost the district in year one about 1.58 cents on to pay for. And the interest on that would be about 4.5%. And that would be of course, we'll know harder numbers on what the cost will be after we put out the specs and the bids come in on the project. So nothing that the board would need to act on tonight, just hopefully by the next board, by the regular March board meeting, we'll have some more concrete information to share with you about some of that stuff. But at this point, Greg's just not to a point where he's been able to do the specs to put it out for a bid. So, any questions for me on my report?
I don't think so. The scope of this project, though, is compared to the last scope, the last loan that you guys got this is about half as much as and where we're sitting now financially is much better than when you started.
Oh, yeah.
So, this is a fraction of the project that you guys took on years before. We're financially sitting a lot better. So, just whatever. I know everybody's a little sticker shocked when they see this, but it's not I don't think this is something that we can afford. I think it's a big benefit. Also, with our discussions, as you mentioned, we did talk about reducing tonnage and stuff. So some of the quotes that you looked at were under 500,000 the prior year from RUT, I believe, was $300,000 and something. So there's a chance that it could be under 500,000 to come in with. Of course, that's a year ago, so inflation stuff could have went up too. Just wanted everybody to know that it's something that we're the last one of the schools around here to do something like that, and I think the can's been kicked down the road quite a bit, and not doing something like that, kicking it down further is going to, I don't know, if you wait for something, to be the right moment, there's never a right moment. So if it's not the high school HVAC coming up, it's going to be something else that comes up. And I think financially, he's gotten us in a really good position over the last 10 years with making larger payments and also buying buses. And we went from like $40,000 to $900,000 in the last 10 years and making a payment on $1 million note basically. So that's all I have for now. Until we get more quotes anyway. So
I do have one more thing.
Go for it.
Because he said bus.
Our bus showed up. Our activity, our new bus showed up on Friday. So it was paid for out of last budget cycle, so we just had to wait for it to get, so it's here. It hasn't been tagged or anything yet, unless the guys were able to get to it today, but they went out on Friday morning when we didn't have school, and it's back, and so I was eager when we got back, so of course I had to go get the new bus smell and check it out. I didn't take it for a spin, but we've got we got a bus with bucket seats and air conditioning, and hopefully for our next road trip, we'll be riding in style, so that's exciting.
Good.
Very nice.
Is it early? Did it
A
come
little
early?
early, yeah. So, yeah, we were expecting 6 months to 9 months to 9 months and a year on the two, and we had the minibus within 3 months, and then this bus within 6 months, so
Very good.
that's exciting.
Very good. All right, any more board committees?
Don't think so.
Like I said, we will next month, because we have the foundation meeting coming up. The only other thing is I will be going to the President's Retreat this weekend in Kearney, so that's one thing that I encourage all of us board members to do is anytime that there's a conference to go to, if we can squeeze in it, our schedule is just gonna benefit the district.
Yeah, as a newbie, any recommendations, if there's something you think I need to go to, I'll take it anytime, so, because I literally have, very little experience in
Absolutely.
I haven't seen anything.
this portion of it, so.
I have not seen a new board member one, but we'll have the spring conference
Mhm.
that I hope to be able to break away to go to yet this year too. And that would be another good one for all of us to go to, or try to anyway. All right. Going on to policy, consider accepting the policy committee's recommendations for policy review and updates as presented for review only. 5010 immunizations, 5012 testing and assessment programs. Then number 2 for review and revision, 5009 adult education, 5011 physical examination and visual examination of students, and 5014 homeless students. I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the policies as presented.
I'll second it.
Motion by myself, second by Hannah. I don't have any discussion. Hannah, do you have any?
No, I don't.
Any other board members have?
Is there, just curious on the whole policy thing, is there any chance of getting through all the policy stuff this year before you leave? then?
No. We'll be about halfway through the 5,000.
Gotcha.
I think it's a good plan to continue going through as we're,
Sure.
going forward.
I was just curious to see if there was
Yeah,
something that could be
yeah.
actually knocked out or not.
It would be a lot of work.
It would be a lot.
I haven't met on that.
And all right, if there's no more discussion, we'll go ahead and we'll start with Mark
Yes.
and Jason. Yes, Hannah,
Yes.
Bobby,
Yes.
and Hope. Motion carried. All right, on to old business. Discuss and consider any action pertaining to the district's administrative structure for the 2025-2026 school year.
On this, because of the way the action items worded, this is one we discuss first. It's just because there's so much information that has to be reviewed. And if there's no opposition from the board, I've invited 4 of our staff members to come to the table. And that's Mr. Niz, Mrs. Blacka, Mrs. Admonson, and Mrs. Pierce is here somewhere. There you are. And my thought process, come on up, guys. My thought process there is that a few things. I mean, I recognize I'm a lame duck at this point, right? So this adds a little more credence to this conversation because they're the people that have a little more skin in the game because they're the ones who'll be here next year. And also they've been the sounding board for some of these ideas. Now, I know at the last board meeting, there was some questions about the just some hanging questions is what maybe is the way I'd say it is. Just some unanswered questions about what were we gonna do as our next step in this process. I think tonight is probably when we need to kind of make that decision. And I've heard, just full disclosure, we did have a meeting as we were kind of bouncing ideas. I did have I pulled in, so we should have discussed this in committee, I didn't even think of it. Jason and Hope and I, and met with, it was just the four of us, is that right? Yeah, we met, and so it was what was left of our fiscal responsibility committee was the thought process, was kind of use them as an initial sounding board on some ideas. And what I heard was I need to see more structure to it and want to see some numbers on it. And so that's the purpose of this, is to bring it to the board and kind of let you folks make a decision. But I thought it might help if we were able to come up with kind of some very option A, option B, option C, and I say it wasn't just me, it was all these folks here. And really that was kind of more Derek's idea, was the option A, option B, option C. And then I'm being the numbers guy, I put the math to it to kind of just let you know what we're looking at for dollars and cents. So in some of this some of this restructuring really would be better explained by some of the folks in this table than me. So if any point I totally get off track here, just interrupt and interject and straighten me out. So in the packet, in old business, you'll have a sheet of paper that looks like this. It looks like about everyone has that page over. This is the page I think that's really important. On the back side of that page is also a spreadsheet. The spreadsheet gets into details. I'll try to explain it in broad terms, but if you walk away if I explain this and you're like, Brian, that doesn't make any sense what you just said, I think you're okay. I just wanted you to know that my math wasn't just me, spitballing, that it's based on real estimates and real actual expenses or real estimates. The numbers you'll want to know are on this page, the important numbers. So I think I speak for everyone at the table, and I say everyone at the table, all the staff at the table, is the preferred option is option A. We recognize that option A is the most expensive. But option A, and I'll just kind of go down bullet by bullet. Option A adds a full administrative position. And I would start by saying FTE is an acronym you're going to hear me throw out. FTE just means full-time equivalent. Usually when we're talking FTE, we're talking students. So if you have a student that only comes half-time, they're 0.5 FTE. They're only here half the day. If you have a preschoolers count 6/10. So they're 0.6 FTE in the formula. And that's just 4-year-old preschoolers. So an FTE in this context is a certified staff member. For purposes of this conversation, the certified staff member is anyone who's a teacher, counselor, school psychologist, or administrator. So currently we have 28 teachers. When I say teachers, that includes counselor and school psychologists and 2 administrators. So our current total FTE is 30 for certified employees. Now granted, the superintendent costs a lot more. 1 FTE of superintendent costs a whole heck of a lot more than 1 FTE of single third-year teacher. There's one in here somewhere, I think. Oh, there's one right there, yes. So 1 FTE of Brian Rottinghouse is way more than 1 FTE of Aiden Guerra, because she's single, she's not making a big insurance expense for us, but it's still, for purpose of this conversation, is 1 FTE. So what we would do then in option 1, if this is pretty black and white stuff here, is we would make no total changes to existing FTE, and we would add an additional FTE of administration. It would keep our teacher FTE the same. It would add a new administrator, so we would go from 2 to 3 administrators, and that administrator would have responsibilities. We haven't get too much into that, but some of the stuff we've talked about is, I think, by now, a lot of people have heard me say that I think that having the principal being the head AD is too much. And maybe if we don't have that person on staff as a teacher who can do the AD role, then or do it more of the co-AD role, especially with Mr. Farabee leaving, who had currently shared some of that responsibility, then maybe we could, if the right person was hired, we could share that. That could be a shared role. DAC would be your district assessment coordinator, which Mrs. Pierce currently does half of that responsibility, but there again, she shares that with Mr. Farabee, who is leaving. Continuous improvement process, Mrs. Pierce does half of that process, Mr. Farabee does the other half. Again, Mr. Farabee's leaving. And then maybe assign some of that MTSS SPED coordinator responsibilities to that person. So some of the pros and cons here. Pros, it's the best option to support students and teaching staff. I think, well, and that kind of goes back to our strategic plan. And our strategic plan talked about one of our goals is to do what's best for kids, retain quality staff. I think if money wasn't an option, this would be the preferred choice of all staff, is to do this. So it's consistent with strategic plan goals, and it increases our likelihood, your likelihood of hiring the most competent superintendent from the application pool. The con, obviously, is the cost. A little bit of this will depend upon the person who is hired. If you hire someone who's single, their health insurance isn't going to be as much as if they're full family, right? But so this is based, and where I come up with 140,000 is based on a full family policy with your FICA and your payroll taxes and your retirement contribution and a base salary of 95,000 is what it's based off of. We come up with $140,000 total cost. That equates to roughly 3.5 cents on the levy, because 1 cent on the levy generates $39,600. So I know that there was some, like, I don't know type of sentiment last meeting from the board members. So as we were talking about, as some of these openings come along, knowing that Mr. Jacobs, we think maybe is going to retire this year or not be hired again, as we look to staff that position, I'll let Mr. Nist talk a little bit about the details of that. But as we look to staff that position before we advertise it or make some additional changes to the staffing of our special education FTE, is there a way we can pull in the administration to this and reduce our total cost, but still gain some additional administrative, somebody with administrative duties for the district? Before I get into that conversation, I need to talk a little bit about something called maintenance of effort, which is often just MOE is the acronym that's used to explain maintenance of effort. So maintenance of effort, in very broad terms, is a federal law. It's a federal law that said it has to do specifically with special education spending for a district. In broad and in overly simplified terms, what it says, the federal law says, is you have to spend as much money as you did the year prior on special education. And if you don't, we're going to punish you. We're going to punish you two ways. We're going to give you a lower special education grade card, a grade on your special education grade card, which they're starting to put a little teeth into that. And secondly, and more importantly for our conversation, we're going to reduce your funding dollar for dollar. So if you underspend on special education, or you try to cut money in special education, and you save $50,000, we're going to reduce your SPED reimbursement by $50,000. So it's forced inefficiency, some might say. Others might say that it's a way of ensuring that you're not cutting costs of the most needy students, the students most in need. However you want to look at it, it's federal law. And the government, or the Office of Special Education at the Department of Education will look at how much we spend, and they will make sure if we don't make maintenance of effort that they reduce our funding by dollar for dollar. So you can't go to special education to make cuts, so to speak. Now there are instances, they're called special allowances, where you have big ticket special education expenses. For example, a year's tuition at Iowa School of Deaf, or a year's tuition at a behavior program for a student who's on an IEP because of their behavior challenges. If that student either graduates out of that program or otherwise leaves the district, and it's above a certain amount of money, and you can document it, it will lower your maintenance of effort threshold. But that's the only way to lower that number. The reason I say that is I explain maintenance of effort is if you're going to have a conversation then about a restructure that involves special education, you better know that you're not cutting your overall special education spending. And that's where the details on the back page get a little more into the nuts and bolts of that. So we'll get into that in a second. So then going into option B, what could we do then to not increase total new costs to the district and still gain some additional administrative support? It would involve restructuring the middle school, high school teacher FTE in a way that adds a half of an elementary principal. Person would also serve as a 0.5 middle school, high school SPED or MTSS support, and a 0.5 elementary principal. Now, I will add that this is part of a conversation that was already happening of restructuring the special education staff in the high school building, the certified special education staff in the high school building, to put someone in more of a MTSS SPED support role to support our MTSS goals. So it's consistent with what we were going to do anyway, or propose anyway. The difference is instead of creating one full-time person to do that, it's only going to create a half a person to do that, potentially, depending upon which direction we go. So there are some pros. The pro would be that it increases our total, or increases administration by a half a person. It provides an additional half-time a person who is specifically in that MTSS SPED support role to help target our designation for ATSI, which basically means that our kids across the board are performing well, but our subgroup of kids on IEPs are underperforming relative to their peers. And what the data says is they're the kids that we need to change what we're doing, which we have and we are, but we need, it supports that goal. And so it would help facilitate that. Some cons, total new funding for the district that you wouldn't already be spending is $35,000. Increase the SPED teacher IEP caseloads in the secondary, doesn't make any changes to the elementary, but it would increase them at the secondary level, but it would still be really below or consistent with state averages and our area averages. So when I talk to other area administrators, all of them say that they have caseloads of over 20 plus, and we're below that. So that would be a con, though, is it would increase caseloads, and it would increase our total high school certified SPED staff by the equivalent of 0.25 FTE. So it would reduce the actual number of teachers or certified persons supporting special education by 0.25. But because we're shifting some of that to an administrative role, it would not hurt us on maintenance of effort. We'll get into that in a second. The third option is I think, by most people, the least preferred option. Advertise and hire a combination elementary principal superintendent like we currently have. Middle school, high school teacher assignments are restructured but remain the same combined teacher FTE to support SPED, MTS, social studies, and science. The pros are it requires no new dedicated funding, allows restructuring of the middle school, high school SPED and MTSS to closer match elementary IEP caseloads and MTSS support, It helps target our ATSI designation. Cons is it reduces your ability to hire a competent superintendent from the application pool. Because I believe you've had feedback that there are some that will withdraw their name from consideration if they know it's a dual role. And it limits support for student behaviors and instructional support. Do you want to talk to prevent me from going, do one of you want to talk about the second middle school, high school restructuring?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay, thank you.
So on here, it's mentioned a couple of times, the restructuring of middle school or high school teacher FTE. Really, that affects 3 positions, changing 2 of them substantially. So currently, we have Mr. Jacobs' position where he teaches 2 junior high middle school social studies classes, and then the rest of the day serves as a special education teacher, providing resource support for those students. Then we have Mr. Farabee's current position, which has him teaching 5 science classes and withholds 2 of his class periods for assistant AD responsibilities. So the idea that I had was to combine the gen ed portion of those 2 positions. So now creating a middle school science and social studies teacher, which is I think a much more traditional combination than a middle school social studies resource. So the idea is obviously that would be someone we would, or a position that we would have more luck in attracting applicants for. So the gen ed portion of that would be 3, 6, 7, and 8 science, 6, 7, 8 social studies. And the way we have it in the current draft of the schedule would be that person would also support junior high PE and junior high sports as a coach. So obviously that could change depending on applicants, but that's where we have it, how we have it currently listed. Then that would take what was a portion, 0.7 of Mr. Jacobs' day as a special education teacher, and that would create a full 1.0 FTE that could provide support for our struggling learners, whether it was in the MTSS process or special education, supporting those on IEPs. So just to sum it up briefly, we currently have Mr. Jacobs serving as a case manager for essentially the middle school students, and we have Mr. Martin serving as a case manager for the high school special education students. We would take all of the case managing responsibilities to Mr. Martin, which would still put his case load, his number, well below what we consider manageable amount and below average still. So Mr. Martin would serve as the resource support for all the students that have IEPs in the middle school, high school, minus those that are life skills. Then this additional staff person, this interventionist, would be able to support struggling learners through the MTSS process and also support those students on IEPs. So we still have 2 people supporting our struggling learners or those on IEPs, but we now have more flexibility in how we do that. So the idea would be providing push-in support on a more reliable basis. Right now, where we have our resource support, essentially the kids can go to those rooms for help. We are, as the state continues to push for inclusion, of course, we want those kids in the classroom whenever possible, and this would be a way that might allow us to do that a little bit better. So when we're talking about the middle school, high school restructure, it is Mr. Martin's position taking all of the case managing responsibilities, restructuring the gen ed portions of the science and Mr. Jacobs' spot, and then restructuring the 0.7 of Mr. Jacobs' current position sped into a full special education or MTSS support role. So that's the restructuring in the high school, and that could, with option A, happen as planned, option C happen as planned, option B happen, but we would have to reduce 0.5 of the interventionist time to serve in a 0.5 elementary admin role.
So do we have somebody specifically in mind for this option B? Because it sounds awfully specific a little bit too, to find somebody to just pull this out of the air.
So the requirement to do that is you have to be And this is what makes it a little more
Because
challenging.
in the past, I feel like we've had a lot of hard time getting people that are special ed endorsed even hired. Okay, sorry, I interrupted you.
No, you're absolutely right. That aside from the best laid plans, you gotta get the person hired.
Right.
Yeah, and so there's so many moving parts here. I don't want to overwhelm everybody with so much information, but in the option B, you also have the element of, okay, it means a person is, part of their time is going to be coded to special education, and part of their time is going to be coded to regular education. And that's when the whole conversation about maintenance of effort comes into play. In order to fulfill that responsibility, under the rules that the Department of Ed governs us by, is that person has to have an endorsement in administration, but they also have to be endorsed in special education in one way or the other. Which is not, those people exist, but it just makes it that much harder. In some ways, it actually might increase your chances of getting the person hired because there's a little more interest in administration than there is just straight up special education teacher, because it comes with a higher salary, of course. But that's a valid point. And that's not lost on any of us, I don't think, as part of this conversation.
The other thing that you would have to factor into that particular type of role is that whenever you have a principal and you're just saying, okay, well, maybe they're doing that in the morning and then they're doing the sped stuff in the afternoon, you have things that happen in the day that don't correspond with those set times. So there's, it gets a little wonky in a way, because if there's behavior issues that they need to take care of as a principal, but it's their intervention time or whatever, and it gets a little dicey.
It's not ideal, it's
Yeah.
clunky,
It's, yeah.
but it does get us to the same place in a clunkier way. It doesn't get us to the same place, but it gets us closer to the same place without costing as much money. And I don't know, I feel like we've already filled the 200 bushel truck with about 400 bushels of soybeans right now, and it's running over. So maybe I'll stop. I won't even, unless somebody really wants an explanation, I won't even go over this. But this is the math. This just basically is the numbers that shows that we could make maintenance of effort with option A, B, or option B. There would be an application process. If we go to option B, we would have to submit an application to the Department of Education, because they have specific check boxes that you have to be able to explain to them how you're going to have a job description that divides their general ed administrative roles and their special education roles, to ensure that you're not coding them to SPED, but using them for Reg Ed. Which involves a time and effort log and a lot of, it's clunky, it's not ideal, but it was a way to get us closer to where we think would be more supportive of our instructional and behavioral needs without costing as much money. Again, I think I speak, if money wasn't a factor, I think everyone would prefer option A.
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate all you guys' efforts and completely value your opinions, because you work in it every day. You know 100% what goes on in the building. And I would choose option A easily if finances were an issue. And I'm glad we're talking about it, but I kind of feel like too, with the situation we're in with the board, I just don't want to be rushed into making a decision that's an important decision, like to make a hasty decision. I mean, our posting for the superintendent, well, this is the third week of that. If we would restructure this and do for the principal, we get 2 weeks of that before there's a deadline where people have to put in for, I don't know when it is in March, for whatever job
March
employer they
15th
are.
is you don't want
Right.
to start posting the jobs.
I'm just
after March
saying it's a
15th.
lot of big decisions in a crunch time frame. So for me, I just want to make the right decision for our school. I don't want to make a hasty one. Because of the situation we're in, it's just, the time crunch causes a lot of issues, I guess.
Not to compound that, but you can see how that one position affects our ability to staff others depending on which approach
Yeah.
we do go.
Absolutely.
And, like you mentioned, March, well, here we are in February and things have changed so much. I mean, I had one lead that I was chasing down for the one middle school science social studies spot, and I just got told today I already have another job now. So, I mean, this is late now, and it used to not be, but we're behind now. So it doesn't help your concerns, but just a reminder, like, things have just accelerated time-wise now as opposed to how they used to operate.
And I will say this. Because I'm an administrator and I know how schools operate. Our teachers are being actively recruited by our neighbors as we speak.
And it doesn't help, but it feels like it's a domino effect. So then, if you wait too long, like, there's gonna be a domino gone, and then you're not gonna be able to connect it. So, I know your concern is that you don't wanna make a hasty decision, but it is a decision that needs to be made in a pretty timely manner.
I will say this, so option C is status quo. So no decision by default is option C.
What's the process if we go option A?
We advertise tomorrow.
Start it.
Yes, literally, we post it tomorrow.
But didn't we advertise it as initially as a superintendent, but a position anyway? And it wasn't until the process.
No, we'd
that
advertise the principal. Meaning if we.
I thought we had decided at our
It was a-
meeting.
We're
that
talking
we
about
were-
two different positions. They're talking about posting, if we decide to go with option A, we'd be adding the principal.
Right. But I'm saying, when you say that we aren't getting good candidates because of it being a combined role, we initially advertised it as just a superintendent,
applicants.
correct? So
The-
the only one that we've had that really has said no is the one candidate because it's a combined, correct?
And then the other two candidates were finalists and other superintendent.
So this is how that process goes. If they get an application, the search firm, that they get an application from someone that they think is a quality applicant, they get on the horn with them right away. And then they're talking to them, right? And so they're chatting with them so they're talking like move-in clause, is there a move-in clause? Well, the board's talking unofficially, you gotta live within X amount of miles of the district. And then the question, well, one of the things the board really hasn't decided yet is whether or not they want the superintendent to be the elementary principal. Is that gonna be a factor for you? And then there's a pause and the candidate says, well, I don't know, I hadn't thought about that. Or the candidate says, well, no, if I want, I'm not probably interested in applying if it's, so from personal experience, that's how that process kind of goes. They're doing the groundwork of just trying to, first off, see if that person aligns with your interests, with the initial interests that they collected, trying to sweeten the deal as much as possible to get them to show up for the interview, but also, trying to feel out some of those areas maybe where you as board members hadn't really decided for sure. So that's where that information, I think, is coming from.
In my research, looking around too, with schools around us, everybody besides HTRS, they have according to that area, the 24, 25 one, had 25 more students in that. And everybody else with 3 administrators like them have either 100 to 250 more students than we do, which is a significant amount more students for me to justify 3 administrators too at times. That's my personal opinion.
I could add a little bit to that. I can't say that I have hard numbers, Hannah, but I've just looked to get a better perspective of that. And if you take the schools that are, on either side of us, just across the state, not just in the area, it's probably 50-50. Like, there's not a strong, really lead either way. I think you see it changing more. Diller Odell just added one this year. They have, what, 30
And
less
that's wrong
students than
on
us.
RRA. I didn't know,
Um,
I had no idea that Diller Odell had an
I didn't.
administrator.
Yeah, the only reason I bring that up is I don't know that there's necessarily a right way or wrong way. Like Johnson, as an example, they have 100 more kids than we do. Now, he would be the first to tell you, like, they can do it because they don't have behaviors, they don't have strong needs that he's attending to, but yeah, so I think it really depends on your district. And so I just wanted to add that.
I appreciate that. If I could chime in, the other thing is the way that it's kind of written up in your, option is that person, if you did hire them, would take over some major responsibilities that are now pushed on to other people or other staff members that maybe
Multiple
aren't.
staff members that are scattered.
That maybe you're going to have a more cohesive, move forward to follow your strategic plan that you guys voted for and we helped with. So it's gonna be more aligned with that. So your dollars are probably going to be better spent in that aspect. I mean, I'll tell you, if it's constructed that way, it'll take money out of my pocket, but I'm not going to be mad. If that person is the right person for the role and they can do that better. Because right now, I mean, I'm doing my full-time job, putting that on top of it too.
It's a drop in the bucket, but those added responsibilities as part of an administrative contract, they're not receiving the extra duty pay that somebody else is. So not a substantial amount in the end, but.
Ideally, I would love to do that option, I really would. I'm with all of you, because I want what's best for you guys and the students, and I want to keep all of you good teachers here, I do. But I have to think of the financial aspect with HVAC for the high school, HVAC possibly for the gym. The plan that you put up for the next 3 years, 25,000 for, I can't remember what, 70,000 on another bus. We're redoing the track in the next couple of years, which is a lot. 150,000 in the upcoming years for the lights on the football field. So I have to think of that aspect too. Budget cuts with state funding. So I get it, I do. So I'm glad we're talking about it, but that's kind of where I come from a little bit.
Well, the thing that I feel as though, we've been as frugal as we have been for so long. I mean, we can't continue to cut corners and be frugal. We're gonna have to do something, whether it be with our building, with our administration. We gotta do something to entice people to want to come to our school, because right now we really have nothing to, and I'm not saying be all willy-nilly and spend money left and right. I'm just saying, like, maybe this is our opportunity to take a leap of faith and better the school.
So, go ahead.
I kind of lean that way too. I would lean towards getting in principal, going to option A. I think we're going to get a better product all the way around. Better for students, better for teachers. I understand. What was the levy on?
Well, if you want to translate it to what kind of an impact it's going to have on the levy, that's an oversimplification because there's a lot of moving parts. You never know what state aid's going to do, and then you don't know how much you're trying to build your cushion or if you can spend down your cushion. Those are just all factors. But if you just want to talk strictly in terms of what impact does that have on average taxpayer, 1 penny on the levy generates $39,600. So it maths out to about 3.5 cents on the equivalent of 3.5 cents of tax dollars on the levy.
Not my biggest concern, but a concern is you combined an elementary principal with a SPED director or somebody that's, yes, there may be times that's gonna overlap, but what if it doesn't and there's two needs at the same time? Like, how do you choose one kid over the other? And it's gonna happen, and I know that you guys have thought about that, and that's a huge concern. But, I mean, I get tears in my heart to think there are so many needs in our school and every kid deserves that support. And are we gonna put I guess, is there a chance that we could do a superintendent, elementary principal, but then look at a sped director that could cover elementary, middle school, and high school? I don't know. And then you might not have that one person that's pulled in two different directions at the same time. And maybe those circumstances are few and far between, but I don't know. That's my concern.
So if we put this out, let's say we would go with option A, and we put this out, for 2 weeks, we get applicants. We get 2 applicants for principal. We have 1 applicant for superintendent. I'm not super comfortable, personally, just putting somebody in these positions. So then if we would choose to do an interim, would we have to pay both a principal and then a superintendent? How would we hire that? How would that structure go?
Well, I think an interim is a whole different conversation, but it's something, I'm gonna answer your question.
Yeah.
It's a whole different conversation because
I'm just saying.
an interim usually is not a hands-on guy. It's usually somebody who's coming in to make sure, you got your 5 Bs, book, boiler, board, budget, and whichever one I'm forgetting, but they're not getting their hands dirty. They're coming in so you're probably not gonna get much of a principal support.
I don't know, I mean, the one that in Axtell was good, that was here recently. Gay Frazee.
Oh, no, she's a principal.
Oh, I thought she was an interim.
So you'd be like one, I'm just gonna throw a name out there that comes up, that maybe not anymore, but a few years ago would come up. I'll throw some out that have done. Galen Bolt, he's done about 27 interims, I think, over his career, it feels like, and great talker, but if you want someone who's come to board and sing the national anthem and give a good report, that's Galen, but he's still an interim, he's 70 plus, and another one was Virginia Moon. She was at Auburn when they had their interim. She's been about every place that Galen's been, plus 2 more. She's been an interim since she was 20, I feel like. And Clint Kimbrough, that's another name that gets floated once in a while. So these are guys. Stephen Grizzle is an interim right now. He's doing the interim up at he retired at Fairbury, and he was doing the interim to help oversee the divorce.
Lawrence Nelson.
Yeah, is it Lawrence Nelson and
Lawrence Nelson and Sandy Creek.
Sandy Creek?
Well, then it's silly that they have interims if they're only doing their job for, that reason. I guess that's a generalized statement, in my opinion. I would think there's probably some that are decent, but I don't know, how does everybody else feel? What options do you guys want? So we could vote on this. I wish this had gotten brought up last week with the whole board, so we could have discussed it in a special meeting as a whole board and then voted on it tonight, not being expected to have all this information thrown and then vote on something so big in one evening. That's how I feel like it should have been handled also. I understand the committee reasoning, but I think for big issues, it should be presented to the whole board.
I will say all these options were not given at the committee.
No, this is really kind of a
Just
feedback.
so you know.
This is kind of, no, it was information gathering.
It was
more than
just
Well, I wanted to use the sounding board and get this is that meeting, so like when we had our last board meeting, some of these ideas were not even, didn't exist yet.
Obviously, your guys' input would be option A, but how feasible are we looking at to manage both elementary principal and if they did middle school, high school sped? Like you said, you're not gonna be able to say, okay, in the morning, I'm
It's
gonna
gonna be a
this."
challenge. It's gonna be a big challenge.
I think
Soraya
the
House called it
administrative
wonky.
pieces of it too. Like if Brian and Derek are gone, like I take on administrative designee, right? And with my role, like I don't do discipline. Like, I'll talk to the kid, talk them through, communicate with parents, but they will ultimately do the discipline. So I think it's kind of a wonky role, like, okay, I'm gonna be elementary principal and then work one-on-one with a kid with some support, but then have to hand down some consequences. It doesn't quite, I think it's kind of the rules don't quite mesh well together. Just like from my experience of being administrative designate with them.
Full transparency, option B has been my least favorite. But that opinion has changed knowing not just our position with the applicants that we may be looking at, but also the applicants in surrounding districts. I think we gotta do something. I don't like option B because it's clunky. Like we keep saying over and over, there's gonna be times where it's just not gonna work, no matter who it is in that role, you know? But, and that's why it was like, if I was thinking about these in my own mental model, like that was at the bottom for me before. Now knowing what the hiring situation is in surrounding districts, what they've had to look at and what they've chosen to hire, and also what we're looking at right now, I think if we don't at least do something, we're not gonna like the outcome. And so a clunky option B is still probably better, in my opinion, than C.
And it could open the door to potentially going to maybe an A. It could potentially, but.
So here it's listed that we would hire an elementary principal with the possibility that they may be the MTSS sped.
Yeah, so we have
So,
those.
I mean, because I guess to me, if we're gonna do option A over option B, then to me, that still sounds clunky.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't sound like it's that much better and we're spending more money for that.
I think there's a distinction there. So option B is saying that we're only assigning 0.5 of a person's day, a person's responsibilities to admin. We're assigning the other half somewhere else. In this case, specifically middle school, high school sped support. That's the part that's clunky.
Mm-hmm.
If we're in option A, we're talking about a full-time administrator with administrative duties in support in that area. So we're not talking about an interventionist that's gonna go work with kids. We're not talking about somebody who's going to either run intervention time or do push-in support or run interventions during win time. That would be, say, if we found the right person that could serve as an elementary principal, but also has the credentials to be a special education director, a service that we currently contract with the ESU. You know, that's our point person for all of our SPED stuff. And so the distinction there is, I think, is just if it's option A, that's administrative responsibilities, not student support. If we do option A, we would go that intervention route in middle school, high school. That person would exist fully as 1.0 FTE.
And the other duties in option A, MTSS, that would just be a part of their administrative duties. So instead of me doing our part-time CIP and Tyler doing part-time C, that person would take over that role instead of us.
And to clarify, that is a paid
Yes,
supplement.
yeah, I get a stipend for.
That's not, but we were just putting those out there as
Just examples.
examples
Yeah.
of things that could help.
Depends on the person you get, what the best fit is for those extra responsibilities.
So then if that elementary principal would take on those, then, okay, but then you would not.
Or I would not. However, not that I wouldn't be involved in it, and that potentially frees me up to do a different duty.
There's always something.
Or just like
Just
the assistant AD
like
stipend right now too. You know, there's the $6,000 built in the negotiated agreement, but that's not something I'm getting, right? That would be the same with that administrative spot.
I guess my other concern is, you know, obviously we would, if we did option A, we were looking at adding 3.5 cents to the levy. We talk about doing both projects for the gym and the high school. we talked about additional adding to the levy. I think we all know that our district is not flowing with money. That's going back on our taxpayers. And, you know, you look at the amount of reduced lunches, you know. I have to think about that too. When I vote of what is it doing to our families and communities. I would love, I mean, I would really think I think we guys do a great job with SPED and all of that. And it's definitely a need. Definitely a need. And to be honest, I'd rather spend money on that than air conditioning in a gym. Or a second, you know, because I feel like that is more beneficial for our staff and our students.
You know, one thought, it just, a couple caveats. First, I know that it's easy for us to sit here and give our opinion when we're not ultimately the ones responsible for answering the questions about funding. So, I appreciate you guys hearing us out, knowing that that's weighing on your minds too. And also, I think it's incredibly important that we're always really thoughtful about what we're asking for and how we're using it. Now, personally, if I'm thinking about my tax money and you'd ask me where the one place is I would want it to go, it would be right here in town, right? It would be right here and it would be for our kids. Mm-hmm. The second thing I just want to say, you brought up kind of the umbrella, like the big picture. We're thinking about HVAC, we're thinking about staffing. We know we have big expenses. You know, I forget which one of you mentioned the buses and everything else that we've got coming up on the schedule. I think for a long time, out of necessity, and some after that, just purely by our own decision, we've made a lot of choices about what we're going to spend, and we've kept it at a functional level, and we've done the minimum. Now, we've had really nice changes at times, whether it's this addition or the fitness center or the track. You know, there's some things we can point to and really be proud of. We've also seen other schools really pass us by in that aspect. I'm not here for this as a job right now. I'm here to see this place be an awesome point of pride for our community. And I think we got to ask ourselves, like, if the decisions we're making right now are going to continue us on the path that we're at, while we continue to see separation between us and some of the other districts in the area, that will eventually pull students and staff from us, or if we see ourselves making decisions that are moving us in that direction too. So, like I said, please understand, I know that you have the weight on your shoulders of this decision from areas that I don't, but everything that we do in school, we're working really hard to make it a place we're all proud of. And like, I know we can be doing things better at times. We all know we're making mistakes all the time too, but we're working really hard to make sure that we're improving and learning from those. So I just wanted to put that out there. You know, we appreciate the position that you're in, but that's where we want to be headed. And I think you do too. I don't think anybody in this room wants anything different than that. Thanks for hearing us
I
out.
appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, thank you, Jared. What's everybody else think?
I'm on board with A or B, of course, but I mean, our levy right now is the lowest it's ever been in the history of the school, and I think we've gone so far to get it this low, and that we've cut corners and made things work, that I don't want to start spending like crazy, but we need to do something that is going to give us something. And I don't know. I'm leaning towards option one right now, myself.
I feel the same way. I think option A is the way to go. It's also give us, as you mentioned, more competent superintendent probably, without that slash principal, I don't know. Oh,
I'd love to do it, I just really truly don't think financially we can do it. I really don't. Because we have to also look at the big picture of every year there's gonna be a huge increase on an administration raise as well, compared to just your regular sped position for an additional. So we're also looking at that on top of all the other. And say our roof issue turns into more, then there's another big project. I would love to. I think it would be wonderful to be able to do it. I just don't think financially we can do it.
there will always be another big project too. You know.
Exactly.
Kind of gets back to what I said, kicking the can down the road. So there's never gonna be a perfect time. There's never gonna be boatloads ahead of money and
Yeah, I don't disagree.
well, yes, I'll just make the motion. Basically what, I'd make a motion that we go with option A,
And a
full-time
motion
principal.
or motion from Mark for option A, and I will second that. Any further discussion? Okay. Hearing none, we'll start the vote. Jason, yes. Hannah?
No,
Bobby?
No.
Hope?
No,
Motion did not carry.
So again, I think at this point, either we would maintain status quo, or if, if one of the other options, I guess the only other option that's in front of you is option B at this point, so.
I'll make a motion to do option B.
I'll second the option. Discussion?
I am going back to I know we need to make decisions, and I appreciate that, I do. And I appreciate everybody in this room that's been dedicated and coming here and giving their input. I'm gonna say no to this, though. I'm gonna vote no because I don't wanna make a hasty decision, and I feel like we need more time allotted, so that's where I'm at. That's my discussion.
Any other discussion? All right, Hannah, your vote was no.
Yes. No.
Bobby?
no,
Sorry.
Hope?
I'm also a no.
Motion did not carry. All right,
Do you want me to bring this back? Do you want this to be on future agendas? You think? Just because to your point, I mean, at this point, I feel like my role is to just gather the information, get it to you, and see it out. So do you want it to come back on the agenda, or do you want to just go with this until I'm told otherwise?
When you mean bring it back.
Just
on the
put,
agenda.
just discuss this exact same agenda item, discuss and considering action on administration.
I think we need to be thinking about it, yes, because we need to do something. Like you guys have said, there needs to be something done, absolutely. But we already have a search out, which I know hasn't pulled very many, and it may not even. I don't know. I guess that's a good question.
I think we need to bring it back.
I would agree. I mean, I think it's worth checking into, trying to work out more of the kinks.
Do you want it on the agenda? I don't know that that's really in the cards to put it on the agenda for Thursday, would you?
For Thursday?
Or the following week? Well, I guess
I'll just kind of play it by ear, what kind of feedback comes out. If there's a need for a special meeting, we can schedule a special meeting. Yeah.
Do we want to go ahead and get one on the books?
Yeah, I think we should. I mean, this is something that definitely needs to happen. I mean, I think as far as staffing and teachers and students, like, this is something that we need. We just need to, I guess, for me, I don't know what more information that we need to figure it out, but whether it's see what kind of superintendent applicants we have, see what, you know, the other thing that worries me is in the past, having sped applicants aren't overflowing. You know, yes, we need the position, but even creating that position, are we gonna be able to fulfill it? But I think it's a discussion to
Which one are you talking about, Bobby? You're
well,
talking about the middle school, high school sped
Yes.
position?
The one thing about having the middle school, high school position there, if they're considered an interventionist, because if they restructure it and Austin has the caseload, your classification as far as like what you need for the teaching part of it could be separate, could be different. It doesn't necessarily have to be a full-blown sped endorsement.
It does for maintenance of effort.
Okay,
You cannot code them to maintenance of effort if they don't have a sped endorsement.
they do have to have
Yes,
sped, okay,
so-
so then.
So they
scratch
can
what I
provide,
said.
so this was, when we had our vacancy in the elementary, Department of Ed said to me, take your best teacher and make your sped teacher. And you can't go to the maintenance of effort. I said, I'm not gonna do that. That's just not right. That's not fair to that teacher. You can drive him away. And so we didn't do that. We tried to come up with other options. But that was their answer. Take your teacher from the classroom and put them in sped. You don't get to code them to maintenance of effort, but at least but legally they can provide your services.
so currently for middle school and high school, right now, we just have Mr. Martin and Mr. Jacobs.
Just have Mr. Jacobs.
Just Mr. Jacobs.
So just based on his schedule alone, there are 2 class periods a day where, well, actually 3 right now with him coaching, that there's no support available from him to special education students. It's part of the reason for the change was just to give us more flexibility, so it's not tied to the class schedule, so they can go meet kids where they are.
How many I mean, I know this isn't an answer you could probably answer, but are there very many administrators that have sped endorsement?
You can go ahead, Doug.
I think probably not. But if you found the right one, it's a whole lot easier to check all the boxes and be in compliance with the new change to the rules. So now, out of nowhere, this last summer, Commissioner Maher, he's forward-thinking. I think he's a good conservative, traditional, but down-to-earth guy who understands how schools actually run, because he's been a teacher, superintendent, principal. He's compassionate towards kids, but he also understands that, you gotta have a common sense approach to things. And so I think he's got a board right now that's extremely split, polarized between the liberals and the conservatives. And so he's kind of weathering a storm where he doesn't have any clear guidance. And so he used his authority, I would call it an executive order, but it was he wrote a rule or just bypassed the rulemaking process and just said, at least for the next year, anyone who passes the praxis exam in any one of these contents can add that content by passing the exam, which was really great when you're trying to make a kindergarten teacher a preschool teacher or something like that. That's a great opportunity to have. Now, the counter argument to that is that it's going to water down the profession. But we've kind of gotten to that point with teacher shortage, to where we got to go down that road. And he said the rulemaking process can be 1 to 2 years. He said, well, I'm going to just write this and so I have every reason to think he'll renew it next summer and continue to extend that. But what that means for this is you could hire someone who is a history teacher, who has some familiarity with special education, tell them to go out and study for the test, who's a history teacher and has an administrative degree. And you could also go out and hire them or contingent upon adding an endorsement. They could pass the exam and add the endorsement. Now, is that ideal for what we want? No. You want someone who has the firsthand experience with it, but it is a way to get there through a non-traditional approach. They would have to get 16 hours of endorsement area classes to add that, like they have in the past. Now, you can't add like specialties. You can't add a counselor just by testing. You can't add school psychologist or administrator just by testing. But most of your contents you can add just by testing. And they also added reciprocity with all the states. So now you're like in Kansas, they call it a license. Your license will transfer in. So I had all these endorsements that I added years ago in Kansas by passing the test, and I just sent my license in and paid my $60 fee, and they transferred them all in. And now I can teach shop and ag and family consumer science and English and all of those things, and it's because they transferred them in from Kansas. So they've, right or wrong, they've made it easier to kind of circumvent some of those traditional processes.
As you're thinking about this too, those options that we have for you, I mean, one thing you can look at as static moving forward are those options. I mean, we've dug into the weeds, and that's kind of what the options are. So I mean, I think the chances of us bringing something else to you to consider outside of those is next to none. So just so you.
And we really should advertise for the SPED opening, one way or the other. So I feel like we need to move forward with advertising for that, because that's the hardest position to hire. And that's a position, regardless of how we structure our FTE, we gotta hire it for maintenance of effort purposes. Aside from what's best for kids. It is best for kids, but our hands are kind of tied from a funding standpoint.
Would we hire for just middle school, high school SPED, and then middle school science and social space?
We'll probably, I think the plan was to move forward with that regardless, and restructure our SPED staffing moving forward. I almost feel like we can't drag our feet on that anymore, that option B after tonight almost has to go out the window. A hybrid has to go out the window. So if we circle back to it, it'll be just adding the elementary principal.
So if we get someone for middle school, high school SPED, what would that caseload look like?
That would shift the caseload to Mr. Martin, and that person would serve in that interventionist role for all students grades 6 through 12.
So as we've implemented MTSS, right, and I'll try to make this brief. Tier 1, there's 3 tiers to MTSS. Tier 1 is the instruction that all kids get, right? It's the great stuff that our amazing teachers are doing. It's math acceleration, it's ELA acceleration, it's all that stuff. Once in a while, kids don't get it, right? But the research says you don't stop teaching the class, you move forward. That is fundamentally acceleration. You don't wait for kids for mastery. You move forward with the curriculum and you get mastery while you're moving forward. So you get the mastery through tier 2 and Tier 3 intervention. Tier 2 intervention is win time. I know there's been, as part of the course schedule conversation in the high school, they want to build in the win time, what we call win time. It's intervention time, whatever you want to call it. It's time dedicated for teachers to work with kids that don't have mastery to get that. We've got that built in the elementary. It's a little easier because there's more flexibility. We don't have it as much at the high school level. Something else we have at the elementary level is we have a Title I teacher. And the Title I teacher is Julie. She's half-time Title I, and she's able then, our Tier 3, Tier 2 is when the teacher works more with those kids in the classroom. Tier 3 is then when we have to give them more intense types of things. Usually we have a decision-making scheme that we go through the steps, and we have our cohort meetings on a monthly basis, and we go through the steps. Is the kid making progress? No, then we need to intensify our intervention. If we've gone through that process long enough, eventually we get to a point where the only option left is the test. And then we test for special education. The goal is to keep kids out of special education, honestly, when it comes to learning disability. And I know that people probably hear that and they think, no, because if we can do things in a reg ed setting for kids to keep them out of special education, isn't that what we want? Isn't that what we want for kids? And so, because Title I funds have historically always been geared toward elementary reading and math, we have that position already kind of built in. We really don't have it at the secondary level. And so that would be one of the key roles of this person. Probably half of their time would be spent providing some of those direct Tier 3 types of interventions. So as we restructure that, that's probably, it's a working job description, but I've got a nice drawing on a marker board that kind of visualizes what it looks like. Well, I would say we'll just keep it kind of, if there's a desire to revisit the issue, we'll just put it on an agenda for an upcoming meeting, but I don't see a lot of value at this. I don't see better options coming out than what we've had. I spent a lot of time putting these numbers together. I don't know that there's really, if we have them, we'll certainly reach out to you, but I don't know that there's other ideas that are probably gonna emerge on the horizon. So if there's an aptitude, or excuse me, an appetite for wanting to change, kind of your opinion about option A, we can always readdress that down the road. But I think at this point, we almost have to move forward with status quo.
Before we move on, was there any additional information that would change if we went and brought this up into another vote again? Option A or B? Was there any additional information that you received that would sway your vote one way or the other?
Is there anything more you need from us? I guess. If there is, let us know.
Because if I'm hearing it right, option B is out the door once we move on, and then we're just stuck with specifically option A, which is my preferred option, but option B goes away once we leave, or once we move on. Do we want to bring it up for another vote? Is my question.
I can honestly say I'm not in favor of option B.
It's not a good structure. It was just a way to kind of back our way into getting something without costing a lot more money. It's not a good structure. It really isn't. And that, I think you hear Mr. Niss making that argument too. It's sometimes in education, you don't have good options, you have your best bad option. And so you work on trying to come up with something that is gonna, so that was our best, that was my best effort at trying to get us there without costing a lot more money.
Thanks for including us in the conversation.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
At this time, I'm gonna make a motion that the board go into executive session to discuss, any, information that would harm or hurt the reputation of any potential, board members, applicants, sorry, thank you. Motion by Jason, second by Bobby. Bobby?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Jason, yes. Hannah?
Yes.
We are in executive session. 7:47.
Probably be best for you to leave than for everyone else to leave, yeah.
We'll go find the council.
You want me, I'll do either way. Probably have to, but I'm gonna grab my pack.
I was like, what's in that one? I'm gonna take that too. Oops, sorry.
Not
Watch out. Watch out.
I'm just. Oh, I know it's something about that, but it would have to be her being brutally honest. Not that one. It was serious.
Friday?
Am I ready for Friday? Yeah.
Have you thought that Friday?
Kind of. I get, tomorrow's the last day of,
Oh, right, good, so.
Forever.
no.
Shannon going, what?
You're getting your sped endorse. Hey, get your sped endorse.
Okay, like all you guys were agreeing to support the Eagles today. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even know I was doing that.
I know.
Yeah,
Steve and Drew decided to wear green for the Eagles today.
No.
Yes, after going to college, Kansas, biggest.
Oh, well, I'm good. You want to learn out some.
Yes, because we went to high, that's when we were like 2 and 11, and no one said anything about them, right? And now everyone loves them. Yeah, I mean, that's our experience, but.
I was the judge, so I had to pick the chief.
Yes, Colby was one lawyer, and the other lawyer. Sawyer? Yeah. Yeah, Sawyer, yeah.
All right.
It was my career section, we were learning about different careers.
Yeah.
Respectfully disagree.
We were talking about judges and what they do.
Well, that's what I was like,
Yeah.
is it my phone? I was blowing
Well, I was like,
though.
looking through your coat, I'm like, where's your phone at?
What's going on?
By the way.
I moved my phone up and I thought it was changed.
Yeah.
What is happening? I'm like, nobody calls.
Starting either tomorrow
Nobody
or
calls me.
Thursday.
That's what I was
Thursday.
I don't.
Then I was surprised about what. As bright as.
The camera's still on.
Oh, yeah, it will.
Can I have any of your pie today?
That'll hear you.
All right.
Yeah, watch you. It's going around the room every time you move.
Say hi to everybody.
The last piece, and I was like, she needs it, I don't.
Yeah. 'Cause I didn't go back there and
I said it's fine, I don't care. I just have to kind of reorganize first period, but you know, hey, what the heck? That's what I'm doing.
Fine. It's fine, everything's fine, I'm fine, you're fine, everybody's fine. It's his little list. I might not, I don't know, I will, but you know, they will. They're long days. Okay, I gotta clean you up. I was trying not to rattle the bangs too loud, but you know, it's really hard. I know. Yeah. I'm thinking, gosh, she ripped it out, like, oh, your mom. We started selling wrestling games for my brother, and I'm like, I'll put them in there where like you drive them along. So they're moving the weather. I went for a little bit, and I was like, oh, wow. No, it is gonna have a good show. Yeah, no, he texted my dad, and I was like, I don't know.
How things are
Well, and they're as close as they get, you know.
Isn't it coming from the south? So they did it there.
When they're up like in school.
Yeah.
Right. Or at home, or whenever you're not getting paid for it. Yeah, you are.
I'm so happy my They don't get that. Big road. I really have to.
sign up, but.
Kid only has two, right? You're one. And the other one's a
I
little.
think right now there's 12 signed up. Only our census.
I know. I hit my phone. He's just, this is about my whole two.
Some people that haven't contacted, but, you know, we got. Couple months.
But I got home.
Oh, yeah, you're
daddy.
You know, unless you want to, fourth grade, I got a dodgeball game tomorrow, at 4. That's the first grade, the whole thing.
Better stretch, that's all.
Hey,
Stretch.
I was sore, but we didn't have lotion anywhere. I don't think so. Oh, I have some in my room. Yeah, where is it?
In your room?
No,
I heard Hadley's room.
Yeah, you all had to stretch. By the time you're playing. Right away.
In the morning.
I know.
8:45.
I get up early. You guys got,
Just today. Just crushed the fifth grade. Cause she like put it out.
I think we should have like a staff.
That's
what the kids-
staff.
The kids said there was gonna be one of the staff, but then there wasn't everyone. I don't know.
No, because it's speech on Wednesday and Saturday.
We got way too much going on right now.
And I was like, speech can afford because we got for 2 days.
The hard thing about that is rescheduling, like rescheduling, say, conference basketball. Officially, you got the week blocked, right? You just move everything, but for speech, you gotta close school.
Yeah.
You gotta use all the rooms. So now you take the host site, hey, you now have an unplanned day off of school, change your whole school calendar.
But technically, you already had that figured in. Well, I guess they would, against, you have a snow day,
You have a snow.
so you can do the snow day and.
Which we would like to think that most schools would be flexible and do it, but I know that's not necessarily the case.
Yeah, so I'm like, that we need this day.
Or I tried talking to the offering today for us, I'm like, that was, we don't have school. We were planning on this, we're already hosting other conference stuff, so.
Hey, I can do Wednesday, I need to work on our farm taxes because I'm really behind. And David would like me to get them done. And he doesn't know how to run the computer.
It sounds like our household.
I
I would do it. I tried to teach you to use.
I can run real quick.
Oh, he can't, he's not, he does not know how to turn it on.
So I can do that.
If I can get into the website, he can, I show him how to take his fingers and do like this to look at the sale bills. That's what he wants to look at, that's all he cares about, is the sale bills.
That
And
sounds
so
like.
he can move it up and down, and you know that, I did something, and I should pay president. And it's like, it's there.
See, my dad used to Facebook, and that's just like find sales, and things to buy.
Oh, David doesn't have Facebook.
That's the only reason my dad has Facebook, is for Facebook marketing.
He brings me his, David brings me his phone. Here, there's a bunch of red dots on here. I think I got a bunch of emails. I don't want those to work. I do. Oh, and Snapchat. I don't know, I haven't seen them yet. I said you should watch your grandkids. Why watching your And I don't know, something needs to be updated or something keeps showing up on my phone. My dad has Snapchat. No, so I can't figure out how to screen it. There's a costume in there. Oh my God,
My sister and I, like, she'll put all the pictures of the, kids on there, and then she has to text them to my mom anyway.
My sister-in-law screenshots every Snapchat picture. And then and I put them on Snapchat. Here's the pictures I got, so that way you have them. Oh, jeez. And she emails those pictures. That's funny. Or not emails, it's pictures of what I put on.
Jace did really good.
That's what I hear. Just did good.
We all crack up.
And then what did they tell you to fix it? He's like, William told me to spread my legs out more. Like, I don't know anything about it.
We didn't.
We have a like.
Yeah, Jason's a big head, so he always thinks he does good. So it was like,
And for
yeah, I know. See, that's yeah, but Ainsley said, and then another boy, Gordon or something, told her that Jace did good too. So Jace is like, oh, okay. And I'm like, I don't know, would you hit me? It's like, maybe 10. I'm like, that's not very good out of 15.
So then he has to swipe and.
Well, it's not.
I love how lucky you are.
Thank
you. He's like, yep, you Snapchatted me. I didn't.
That's not. Is it? Not even 50%? No.
Julie did announcements at her school last week. Yeah. But
Was she excited or nervous?
She was excited, but then she got really nervous. Grandma, it was great, but I was really nervous and I got embarrassed. I said, what happened? I was so embarrassed. Nobody heard the first sentence I said. And I said, well, that's okay. No, Grandma, you don't understand. I had the phone upside down. She says, I didn't know there was a right way. And I thought, you know what? She's only used the cell phone. Yeah. She holds and talks into it. Yeah. She doesn't know that the receiver of the phone, there's a right way to do it.
No.
She had no idea. She said, turn it around. I said, well, now you know. Is she in third grade? Third grade. Then it's 9.5. She feels like last year. I know. She's on her fourth school in 4 years. She started her new school this semester. She hated Jardine. And Topeka hated it.
Was that private?
That was public. She's now in private. There were 5 third grade classes, which she was fine with. But she said the teachers weren't nice, people yelled all the time, parents yelled at us, lunch ladies yelled. They were reading I Bang the Drum. She says, we learned that in kindergarten. That's what they're reading in third grade. She's reading Harry Potter books. She was bored. Yeah. She never had homework. She was bored. She went to Most Pure Heart America, Most Pure Heart of St. Mary, I think. Heather, no one in Heather went there. And then they had Jaylee go, and she got to shadow for half the day. In the teacher, because they had to project with the teacher she's having the class she'd be in. She got done, she says, when can I start? And they left it up to her if she really wanted to. She said, I want to go. I want to go. And, she loves it, and she says it feels like she's been there since August. It just feels like home. It just feels good. So I got to go a week ago to Grandparents' Day. I go to DTO Day right now. So it's Grandparents' Day, so got to see her school and her teacher, and oh my gosh, she had, some parents were standing in there that came too with some grandparents, and they said, introduce themselves. They said, oh my God, we just love her. We're so happy you guys love her. You know, when she came in, she's just happy as Glenn. She goes, Grandma, I could just never wait to go to school. I just love it. Your life is and she's artful. I'm thinking you need it's just. No. I won't tell you that I'm looking at retirement. But their art room was in the basement along with their library, which was fine. I get it. It's a private school, you know. But it wasn't, I was like, oh, okay. So she goes to the public library all the time. But their art room, I walked in expecting to see all of these things. And it was like 3 tables and a few colored pictures of the crayons up on the wall. And a couple of other art pieces. And I thought, oh. You know, I just expected, I expected more. But I do have to say, in their hallways, they did have big pieces, art that the kids did make, which was nice to see, but it was just, I don't know, I'm used to what we have, and it's just, it's an art room, and that's what I like. There's things, it's art, you can tell.
And you walk in your room and it takes you back to your childhood because you smell all this paint smells.
I didn't smell paint. I didn't even see paint. I didn't even see anything. Aww.
It starts to smell like normal again.
I closed my door last week and going, ooh, stinks. And it wasn't your room, it was from the auditorium.
Oh my gosh, that was bad.
Oh, that was, by the end of the day, the kids are going, the fumes gonna hit them today. And the floor.
It looks nice.
It looks great, but it was pushing that gravelly stuff or whatever that stuff is. I mean, it looked pretty. Well, they clear coated it on Friday, but on Thursday they put the other stuff on it. See, right across the hall from that?
That was bad. Yeah, they had the door cracked open. I think I took the kids over to art and so I'm letting everything in there. They're looking at me like, what are you doing?
Just checking out progress. I went in this morning going, oh, I have to go see this. Yeah, I put my foot on it just to see.
I was scared too. And we were joking, I'm like, man, we're pushing it to get done by Friday. No one's gonna be able to leave, we're all gonna be stuck to the floor.
Yeah. Ben's worried about Friday because it snows Friday and he's supposed to push snow and he wants to go there the game by. But Brenda said he needs to tell Dave to let him come. Dave will let him come to go to the program. He said, I suppose he probably shouldn't pull his plow truck in front of us. People might have a problem with that part.
They might not, they might want to like, right, behind them on the way home.
Well, depends which way they're going. This his route is from here down to Du Bois and Freedom's Church. He stops the Sultan stand at the county line, but he pushed snow to Freedom's, turns around to Freedom's, because that's a nice big area. And then on the way up, he pushed snow in at the line, state line, that's the Sultan standing. Well, the Kansas guy stopped standing at the Nebraska line, but pushed the snow a mile in. He says, we don't know each other, but that's what we do for each other. We help each other out, it's a mile either way.
Yeah.
And then he goes to Du Bois and then, Highway 8 over to 105 up through Humboldt. He has to do the 4-lane, clean out the corners at Lewis's and Dollar General and all of that. And then sometimes he does the other corners and he comes back and does it all the way back. It takes him a little.
So how long does the route take? I mean, depending on.
There's sometimes I check to see where he's at, because it's in the middle of the night. Okay, he's my son. No, it's. I can't write.
I did not do it subconsciously. I did it really. What do you think the proper fans and accuracy they ever probably ever do? And I love to give the Johnson.
I didn't lose my voice from yelling at the game.
Well, I hope not.
I haven't had it since Friday.
I hope not, there wasn't a whole lot of.
I'm sure that you're before your coffee, I gotta take a break.
We were on the celebration watching the snow. The movie theater. We all pulled up and
Or pulls
kids
on
went to the
those.
swimming pool, and it was not happening.
And just take
That's
the
what
eyes
I
off
do.
the road and. Takes a break. Just sit back and
As long as I
relax.
run back and you know that 20 minutes, sometimes a half hour to watch
He said, when it's dark.
And the first time I made eye contact with this tunnel all the time. It was inevitable. And he has to times and I'm like, I was saying. I come home every other weekend.
Yeah, I
And
was just playing.
it would always snow, and it was like the worst part of I-80, because they went right over the mountains.
Hey, what happened?
Every time I built the interstate, they're like, we're putting it lost by like 15. I'm like, I find a trucker, and I go running through Catherine, one day I got behind the
I was not,
It seems like I thought it was an option to be behind. I was,
Heather, when she was living with us, when her kid was probably she had to go to Second to get her little car.
Your last
Slide
shot, they always say.
I figured it would down the roads are.
And she said, nope, I'm going, it's fine, I got it in. She was so excited, she took the picture, she says, look, that's my little brother in front of me.
It wasn't
my way there. And I thought, oh, I should have stayed crying. Okay, whatever.
An extra mile.
Yeah, you know, she got an extra mile.
Church and pray.
She was so excited, she was behind her baby brother. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm home with your daughter, where's Swartz?
Church through that at first
Because we didn't
intersection,
have
I was like,
school
all
that
right, it's turnaround time. And then friggin', he throws two interceptions right off the bat.
Yep. I mean, I really was like, okay, you can start playing now. I was like, what happened to you? I was enjoying a lot of the sacks, because I'm like, I didn't even touch them. Yeah.
It's okay till Friday. She's so worried.
And the way that
Tickets to go
the
to
first time
King.
that they do blitz,
It was postponed, and it was canceled. They had tickets
I was like,
to room.
that's why you don't blitz.
It was canceled. You're kidding. She says, now we had to keep on cutting with you guys.
Yeah, that's why I was a little late getting here.
I told her, yeah,
I haven't
Yeah,
seen
yeah,
yet, though. I just haven't.
Whole basement had its own pool and one soft feeder room.
Oh my God.
Got that
A room lined with arcade games and all the kids were, did that for one day. They had their own room, girls got one room with a bunk bed, and boys got the other room.
Which I think we're here.
Yeah, one of them, they built like a dozen, they have like a dozen of them in an area down there. And
Well, then my aunt was giving.
they all have different things, there was one between Tyler, but they don't know we were there.
But then I was like, oh.
And the basement had like arcades, it had a basement in the basement. And it was like 2 houses down from us. So we were like,
Yeah, because.
yep. We had to go outside, you just sit in the basement. And that's what I said, we booking that for next year?
And then it was open. That's my place, like, I'm gonna stay in one spot.
Yeah, well, that was the house, it was about twice the
They
size.
gave what, 4 tickets?
4 tickets. Because I knew my.
Oh, you are.
The house we were in now.
How
That
you
wasn't the way we were going.
Yeah, I didn't.
I'm seeing you everywhere now.
Yeah, I've been asking my baby yesterday, but. Oh, Daddy's on me.
Yeah, he does.
So.
What you doing?
No, not really.
It's senior.
Absolutely.
Because they were starting to get more into the same market. We didn't have to go
Oh,
outside.
that's probably.
Looked everywhere.
I mean, they
Are you
said.
hurting anything?
It was calamity based on the whole time. Sidetracked. Look at the sun was, I have some cameras on my cows that are out in the shed.
It's going great.
You can see how the sun's shining.
Yeah, it's going great. I came later today. I'm gonna start coming a little bit later. I'm gonna do my other job first, and
Their biggest thing,
I'll come here and
are new over.
oh, my God, there was more people here.
Bunch of wind.
So I know this is gonna be
We
always.
had one little recliner chair we did.
That way I don't-
And then we have one, and then we have another one, and a cowhide one, that like we had a lot of stuff.
No.
So we bought a second. So when they're there.
Both chairs are outside about.
We'll have their own little baby
Baby
recliner, and it is.
Should enjoy it while you're in here. I wish I would have when I was here.
Same height or months apart.
I wish I would have, well, I would have been good. Try.
About every morning I say.
They are.
People can't tell you why you're in.
I can't wait to.
You gotta wait till you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Couldn't we? Right? I seen you on intervention.
I wasn't even thinking that. Like great knees.
Now you gotta wear your toe fills.
Mom has to work tonight.
Jackson had to.
Influenza egg, yeah, but like the.
Oh, yeah, I knew that.
I
Because we had part of
yesterday. And it was after some basketball, Candy said Jackson had influenza A. Charlie at Gothenburg came home.
Person had a
Said,
nice party.
whatever, Emmy and Kamsa and the Angies. Last Wednesday,
Huh?
they were something in your life, really, out of 17 left in her first year class. She was Wednesday, at the end of the day, sick, and Thursday, there was 3 out of 17 left. Yeah.
They graduated, they so jammed
None of the
Trying behind the computer. I would do the same.
Do something else?
Or I did do the same.
I mean, that would be hard.
I had quite a few fourth graders last week, so we had regard day because I wanted to do so many projects, especially when I only have once. Yeah, and especially when I only have one hour.
I'm gonna be down there where they're that I have, so I thought,
Well, math they do separate, but I come in for social studies and science. Well, and so when I do those, and then I don't go on because the other one is
No, it's not actually, the reason it's not because I'm that short, because it wasn't farther back, but I had my back.
So Steph?
Yep.
They kept Tricia or Kathy had the date of when,
So I was
together, I'm so used to it, all
far
of
up so I can reach.
And of course, Sunday after we were,
So I'm like,
Sunday after, after the work, okay, we had, the Illuminati
I just
Saturday.
left it that way because I'm.
They did, in May, and then,
I'm being lazy, but it really was. I call them my little.
the next day, Sunday,
Matters, so I don't know how many.
and it's gonna be,
And I went there, I was like.
70.
For around. I just kept dealing with it. I just kept getting.
Are going to get together, so they're mainly doing it.
But I think my 2 little Mary.
I'm assuming she'll contact Dad.
Oh, she's already
today.
Contacted.
They contact.
She calls him.
He does,
Mhm.
everybody,
Apparently.
Yeah.
a lot of them do.
They do. They check in on it, which is
Yeah, they
good.
do. So,
Yeah, which is really good.
yeah, and he knows, it's gonna be here at the village.
Okay.
gotten more fan favorites,
So,
I know, I want to start a campaign, but I don't have time to do that.
Yeah, I'll have
And
to
I don't like feel bad.
That's like, that's
make sure he's talked to her or whatever.
oh, yeah, she, like he says, I think her and Robin.
Oh my
Yep.
God.
From last
Yep,
year
they
to
do.
this year. So, they're making it a little bit more I'm just.
more grades, you know.
Well, I'm gonna
Yep.
bring that sketchbook.
I get to go too, and I just have to be more.
Yeah,
You got to go to the last one though
Oh my
too, didn't
gosh.
you?
Yeah,
Oh, my.
I did.
God.
Yep.
The growth is just been.
Yeah,
To
since,
get back shut again.
yeah, since Kathy puts it on, and then I'll help her with,
It'd be like 5.
we're gonna have a meal
Yeah.
this time, so.
You know what, and writing, I help her with that letter.
Yeah, he'll look forward to it.
Him and his little
Yeah,
part.
Steve said that.
Yeah, he enjoys it. Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, so, yeah, to write. So I put it up on the board and he.
You know, we just think he gets lonely and.
Look, I wrote neatly, like this way.
Get him out.
Kenny and I.
Oh, yeah.
Great.
Oh, really?
That's what I have.
Yeah.
I need more people to help with that. I've got.
Steve was always hung around with my
Brother, right?
brother.
Yeah.
I'm confident once I.
Well, that's just my brother,
It's
is
getting.
hanging around with Steve.
Yeah.
But he's older than Steve.
To transfer, but yeah, to get them on a standard, it's just the year on there too, he freaks out because he thinks he's gonna. You have to, you have to take him out of the chair.
Oh, yeah, man.
And then you have to. Just right, it's a process, it is at least a 2 hours.
One granddaughter that I don't see very often.
The goal is to do it 3 times a week.
Well, that's my thing, I'm like, eventually I need to pick up, but I'm like, I'm
Busy.
gonna pick up some that are newer, and I'm like,
He spends a lot of time in,
He's in it for a good hour and a half, because he
and
loves
I'm gonna be paying.
because he can stand himself up upside down, and I can roll, he says, roll
and
down.
I don't spend time at all in it. I should.
Then you're going into more problems too.
Well, I want to
Well,
Well, yeah,
Charlie's had to do before I did work, and I need, that's where I need you and Austin to help see the process. Oh, I am. Yes, because my job
Alright.
site is.
We'll see you later.
so I can't wait till May.
On Thursdays, take me away, well, you don't have fun.
Mary, you don't say all this.
Okay, I know I can. That's
We
why
can
I
come in here.
can. Hey, you
I
can.
mean, we wouldn't keep you from doing anything.
Yeah, no.
And you, my job site.
Fine, how are you?
So on to.
Yeah, but
I
you
talked
can
to
just sit there
Steve
till
the other.
And I told
I'm like, I
so
don't know.
RJ knows what we do. I said, I do want to come you down, this is what you're doing. And he said, yeah, let's not do Tuesday, he preferred Wednesday, because it's rough and different things going on. He thought that would be another thing to get in on that, so do Wednesday, Thursday, Tuesday,
Timing same.
If we did the final one.
I gotta get mine ready here.
They had
But anyhow, so I hope my students is okay with that. They're gonna have to be, there's not much option.
Yeah.
RJ didn't know that he would even say yes.
Yeah.
So I said, listen,
But it doesn't really hurt the engine from Saturday now, so Charlie's like,
just talk to him.
That's a 13, I don't.
And RJ, well, maybe it'll work if I told him I would have to do the supervising and then I'm on.
that's what he told me on the story.
I was tired, I don't have a plan today. I wish I had a plan C for a person to go in my place,
Put the battery in.
honestly.
But that's all it's on. And tires.
Yeah,
The tires, yeah.
It's that technology is the problem.
Yeah.
Hey, because I'm gonna, I don't know, I'm gonna have to rearrange the kids' schedules a little bit. So a lot of, I don't, because when I'm doing some of the homework, it needs to be me, so I can kind of rearrange
But Mary Bowser's, same way,
what we're doing when.
We'll wait and see on this one.
Yeah.
There's something there.
Well, I've never really felt faster.
Yeah, it feels faster, but
when we replaced it, what, three times?
We replaced it once.
More than that.
Just once.
We had it down.
It's with the breathers and the
And now I can't remember who I called.
All I do is change that box out, that box is $150.
And then 2 more later.
Yeah, like for 2 weeks, and I was just like, ain't worth it.
Don't cheat, my hair's getting staticky.
I was gonna try to take it off, figure out how to.
I bet I could go back to my credit card.
Yeah, but it just around the bottom of the front.
It's only gonna be 2 weeks, is that even?
I'm not gonna cheat or anything.
No.
Which everyone for calendar that she forgot at the house. I was my grandma, like, and then I have to make, can you just tomorrow?
Well, I asked them for the base sale or
From the
Yeah, student council.
I got each of the kids a card. And then I got the.
If you guys wouldn't have known my cookies, that was free.
There's some left.
There is two, I can't.
William was umbrella. I think last time I was at least 12 sitting there.
They're anxious, ready to go visit grandma.
it's a cake wrapping box, so if that helps you.
Oh, I guess I
We don't have to
It's
have
my
one.
normal credit card, Apple Pay, that would be dangerous. Just glad enough for having my Apple card. Or you can just click, double click, like, oh. Oh, it's a good day to visit grandma, that's why they were. Oh. I thought, yeah, you're right, it is good now.
How do you feel on some of this stuff that we discussed? How do you feel on some of this?
A lot of different options to go all the way around. You all bring options.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I think, back, like, talking with Derek, I think it was the spot he was saying, he was doing about 70% of his workload was principal. He was only able to do 30% of the time was, here. Yeah.
And then he did the superintendent stuff.
But I mean, that's a lot of taking on one guy. Everybody as good as people that's wanting to do that. So but wouldn't you, I know it's costly, but wouldn't you want to separate up and both those positions running 100% on your side instead of half?
They're not comparing debits. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
But I mean, like, they're pointing out earlier, if your taxes are gonna go up, the one place you would, most people wouldn't care that that's where it's going, is to the school.
I said,
Complain.
she was
Oh, yeah.
I said, if your mom comes home, are you gonna be in trouble for texting me and I'm gonna be in trouble? Yeah, she said I can call you.
Down the road and keep them going, or we actually gonna try and
Keep building and improving.
Later she was cleaning one.
you aren't gonna do what that's been.
It's okay, I'll just take some rain. It's easier than making stuff up. Yeah, that is not the that's true.
Last week, too, was rough, I felt. That too.
A lot of us
Your blood
are too much older than I am.
so far, I should say so far.
I think it was the fact that I had an infection and a respiratory. Double.
Oh, here's what's repeated.
Like Kansas is gonna get more again.
Oh, Heather's so excited that she moved back to this. Coming from Temple, Texas, and
With back
mid-80s.
But I mean, they shouldn't get as much snow as we do. This is exactly.
Well, that's what we told her. This
This isn't right.
yeah.
The further south we go, the less.
I want to go back to there too, by the way.
I'd like to know what the surrounding schools is tax, what are they levying?
We need to take Riley to the University of Miami for college middle.
That's true, yeah, well, then you got college, which has 25 years later.
I don't see. I mean, we still lived in our college town for many, many years after graduating.
They just, all the schools are
This was a good idea.
petitions or doing their calendar improving. That is,
I have to look at mine.
Yeah, they've been really great. Well, is that what?
Alright, should figure out. Like how they help.
Build this thing.
Okay, I figure out something. Well, I'm leaving a page where it's gonna be.
You can sit there, eat your food.
Hope not long. Wham, wham, wham. That's what I'm. It shouldn't take.
Odell? Yeah.
I have my transition goals written, I got my annual transition goals written. Oh, guess what? There's a beach there.
It's been there for a while.
The state said.
But they've had it. Well, since as long as the kids have been in school.
I know.
And then they
I
have like.
said, darn right, I'm taking all the credit for that. I'm so excited.
Yeah, this is all the way up. It's neat.
So now I know what I've been doing for the past 6 months after I sent those
So
in.
like when you come in, like to come into the gym, you come into work and session. You have to do,
Is this the gym on the south side of the building?
no, it's north.
I saved some ideas and now I
It's the new one. And then they built classrooms and everything, connected everything. It's a nice school. It's cool, but
What?
I don't think it's any.
Another plane.
Very good.
Oh, I didn't hear.
You ready to go on?
What's that, that one that get here? She's been here.
He just blocks me. Everybody just sees me.
She sat next to me and everybody's like, I leaned forward and they're like, oh, she is here. The past I was covering.
Yeah, you guys pick along.
I know, terrible.
We can
Should've
make this.
said, hey, could you sign these before you guys leave?
Maybe not.
Because they've done that. They'll sign up. But if you're early, so you're gonna be here anymore. Because it could go, they still got quite a bit to do yet. They do. Yeah, they have like one, as it, well, it is dwindling. They have like one thing left. I don't care. That's what does that be, the president, does it have to be any board?
They have to. They have a vacancy and
Since
then
required.
for it and the membership, so two
I
people
thought
thing.
we were still in a picture.
Kind of patriotic.
Yeah.
One meeting. You have to go either a school board meeting, city council meeting, commissioners meeting, a village board meeting, any meeting.
Yeah, that was the one.
And then they have to answer some questions or write a summary, what they talked about or what they learned. They did. This has been the last couple of years, up 3-4 years.
Interesting.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
The Brian's been trying to take pictures of group.
So we're kind of a wow, that's kind of bad.
Nobody wants to do
I amended that. Every 8th grader.
Oh, that's right. Well, he said something about being a full day,
it.
so.
This would be a full day.
I think it was on the same bill.
Probably
So I was reading.
650 to 700 pounds. Must have been like,
That's intense. Oh, I don't know.
small as everything goes.
They were talking about.
Snow don't start early.
Yeah.
Or did they want
It takes quite a bit of
people who
snow.
actually are trained in that to do that?
With this new director, I'd like to slow down.
Which is fine, because I love teaching art history. But I suppose you need to like have to know what you're doing.
I go to Hiawatha, that's where I started today, go get Iowa, and then either go on the, came down some boys, and come back south, and then Bob's your uncle.
Well, maybe tomorrow when I go, hopefully, and remember the girls.
Seems like every time
He just wants a little something for us.
Last time she went with me, we were in Oklahoma City. And we left that morning, went down to Oklahoma City.
He is, and she is too, so that's fine, okay, I gotta find
We were home by
something.
So yeah, he opens up the door, he goes, you
Yeah,
know.
she'll go and get I knew what she liked, maybe it just.
You learn by actually more. See, we next to this kids are, it's like I got 5 hours. to go.
Seriously, I'd like maybe, because she is going over there and getting a list from.
You can do the same.
There's cameras everywhere.
Never know what, even when you're out in the field.
Just don't stand in front of
Easy to talk to, easy to.
Yes, are they gonna sign them for you?
I gotta ask her about
You got some homework. You got some homework.
Oh my God, he's so excited to get out to the bus and get on. He can hardly wait. It was a little hole in the bus. I'm sure it was, because she wanted to be out. And it doesn't, you know, this is.
You know, it was a Zoom player, but I was thinking it was kind of game. I was thinking about what?
That's what I
No.
The little kid was doing this on Saturday, that's when he.
He gets to school and I sit him in front of there, I said, okay, get set in front of the door, the bell's gonna ring in less than a minute and wait. And I told him, stand out of the way. As soon as the bell rings, straight shut down the whole time. He did, you know, it's the first time. He almost, he almost.
His dad had she's out of his
And he was yelling something. And his mom's like, oh my God. He said, it's okay. It's not learning, it's learning curve. It's a learning curve. Oh my God.
Oh, yeah.
Then we can go to the studio and just watch here. Yeah, but it's hilarious. I love it. It's hilarious when you sit down. And I was giving her telling me, Blake.
How many years was it?
Dr. Jackson.
I know, he got a tardy one day for coming to school late, and I thought,
Did he deliver
his
you?
mom brought it up. He can't be kidding. So, why are we giving him the tardy? No, we're punishing the kid who would do anything to be here, like early. It's, you know, he depends on mom to load him in the wheelchair and load him in the car to go to the mirror and get him out. Poor kid. So I went back and looked today to see if he had parties for Friday, and it didn't have any come out. Okay. Because, oh my gosh. I was gonna fight that one, because I'm like,
Think you'll make it to the hospital this time? Think you'll make it to the hospital?
I'll get home in time.
that changed, so it was a week before, so we're still gonna have, see what we before.
Told you, yeah.
I know. A lot of people, I think I'm gonna send an email to everybody so I get that response, and then always like random update or something. I'm like, I was excited about it.
Oh, I wish I could.
I was excited about it.
I have this, I can't accept the term and conditions because I just been, so. Chapel had it fixed me, it did for a whole day, so I have to force quit it.
You went on the board to work?
I just need to take it back up there because I don't want to wipe up my laptop.
If you don't like it working out, it's okay. You didn't mind it, okay.
I imagine on Fridays when you very hard for that girl. She's gonna be worried all day long.
Do they know what they're at?
I love it too.
You gonna make it a surprise too?
So who fixes the rush hours? Okay, my breaks, I just felt pretty good. I've been letting him work. Yeah, it's kind of like he's stuck and all of a sudden comes down and I look over and there's a wire just hanging out the window. I was like, I'm not correct, you should find out. Not the site we actually put the car in. That one, the handle sometimes falls out and I can't open it. So if that handle falls out, we can't get in our garage. It's something in the side door. Yeah. So the only way in our garage is overhead doors.
But it probably wasn't the first
I
one.
told him, I said, well, I think one of your families.
Oh, maybe.
There was a fire in those, or just.
You have to get your cameras on next time, that way.
There was one in West Town, but there was a fire call we got, there was.
More Amish.
I don't know, because the Sanders house caught on fire right before Christmas.
You get the basement all.
And I think they lost, they were like, I think there might be a total loss. But some of it was okay, I gotta walk to the restaurant for that. The unfortunate thing is Matt sometimes gets me the tea,
You doing it?
but sometimes not. And then I'll ask him, like, what's their last name? Oh, I don't know.
You got one now?
Alright.
This I got it.
Maybe you might try to take it from me,
And, just had some thoughts with them, about hot dog they bought, and found out it's the same one I like messages.
And sometimes,
That's the same guy.
That one, and I still think was
well,
probably
it's like
better.
the other day,
This one.
about his sister and going on to the tea. He's like, I don't know, call my sister. I'm like, no. They took good tea on my sister, but they work together.
Yeah.
And they're like, so they fight like, do they? Yeah. Well, she was in high school. She was still in high school when we started dating. So they. And they're both middle children. I'm oldest.
When you was, I picked up my uncle that took Reese and my cousin Alex just lived a block down the road. And I took her for a seed shed at a pallet. And we just moved her on the edge and sat on the whole pallet. And the whole, sat on all of it, so when I could turn it, roll over her on it. We would lay down a couple of sheets of put it.
I'll usually get it's just like.
But it worked.
I used to help, make Clifford build them. So we used to move them all over the place. And lay them in the south and stuff like that. Yeah. It's just too much. Yeah.
I feel like.
Easy pipes.
No. That might be true, but not this way, it's that way.
Like that crazy idea that you wanted to replace the
I know, I wasn't, you weren't home when I was there.
He locked that thing down, they had to cut the first. Pick it up, shove through the wall. We wasn't gonna too much through the wall, we got just through that one, get it out. And then have the new one back in.
Which is fine.
That was my dad's.
That's not too bad. I didn't think it was gonna be that.
Oh, yeah.
Makes more decisions.
Sounds good.
So I'll get all ready, you got this. And I was worried about what's out there, and the whole wall. It's the opposite of that. Everything's out of the way.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Right, yeah, just.
Yeah, I seen that they put that on Marketplace or whatever, and then I was like, no, 20 years, they're gonna want that back.
It kind of look nice right now for me.
The only thing is, once you're in there, all the water is.
Yeah, this is actually,
Better than the alternative.
Yeah, you gotta sit in there.
my grandpa thought,
Well, by the time you get done.
grandpa thought they were very,
I don't know, I just, somebody else experienced it. Her
Yeah.
dad's got one. So he's like, this is Miss Loxley. He was gutted, not, you know. So I was like, oh boy. So I'll talk about rain.
This must be really interesting.
Background checks.
I'm guessing we're doing it fast.
I ain't really that snow can't pass by, I guess you'll start.
I guess I had a piece of homemade bread with some peanut butter slathered on it before I came.
I had a whole
So
bunch of chips.
I'm starving. So I guess we aren't fasting. We already had a piece of bread, I should give you a chip.
Every nose for you, but I didn't voluntarily fast for it. It's not that bad. I admit I'm curious about it. Once you get used to it, you don't even think about it. It's just like it's super smart.
That's not good.
It's amazing. Eating like 3 squares. Once you get away from that. Yeah, but you don't even mindset about it.
It's his weekend to work, the weekend of the Humboldt speech. And so he like worked pretty much all night and then came over in the morning. He only missed her morning one and then we didn't get out of there till like 6:30. And then we stopped K-Rocking me for William's birthday. He was looking rough, like,
I was ready.
yeah. And
I'm like,
already done his big one
I
fast.
just want to go to sleep. I just want to go to bed.
Every weekend that he works, he does a big one fast. And he looks pretty rough, I think he was regretting his fast. Not that fun.
1,800 miles in 2 days. Wow. Yeah, wow, I was tired. Did we actually give you a day? Yeah, it was me.
I told you.
You're noisy. Yeah. I scare a lot of kids. They hit the whole water pump, I'm like, you're gonna
I told you, he asked who was driving it, and I said, Derek, and he goes, I probably shouldn't have gone. And I don't do it. So he, we were in the minibus, and he drove by the minibus.
Factory ones?
No.
Oh, afterward.
Aftermarket, then they beat it up. They don't have a 1/4-inch line, and they're on a 1/2-inch line. You can watch the air just drop. It's serious. I scared lots of people. My niece lives in Fairview, she lives right on the highway, and her husband was mowing yards right next to the highway. I see him, I'm just sitting there. He did everything but throw his lawnmower around the street.
What did she text you? King Jesus or something? Did he have his back to you?
Oh, yeah. I didn't even know I was coming. My truck's really quiet. It's got all the crap.
Oh, man.
You might hear it run.
But now she has a baby.
Yeah, I can do it. Every now and then on my highway out there, like, we got the headphones on and going, like, trying to get it done, so I'm not next to the highway for a long time. Every now and then, somebody with just a pickup come up, lay on the horn right behind, scared the crap out of them.
I thought about doing that to people, but it was like, my luck, they're like,
Yeah,
oh,
cheap.
yeah, and
Yeah.
wrapped right out, but I mean, or up underneath the trailer. Anyway, do you keep driving? It was. Is Wayne gonna be this year? No. Is Wayne gonna be this year?
Yes.
Shit, I can't remember. We was to his practice Sunday. I just wondered.
Clark, I'm like, so, am I?
We
Is
were
there a
in
cake raffle?
Princeton all weekend.
Yeah, but I'm mad at them because they scheduled me to work the concession stand.
Family
You don't have to
Christmas
make
trip
me.
or whatever, we rented a house down there with a pool and that stuff. We left Friday morning, went down there and we just got back. So I was late to come to this.
I think Larkin does too, but it's just like, what does he even do?
But yeah, as far as I know, he was, or playing
We're
on
gonna burn these kids out, they work every month, every year.
but it's still growing, a lot of interest.
So yeah, there's lots of seniors.
He did work on getting people to
Seniors, have quite a few juniors and then come.
I mention it, people just kind of, they kind of just giggle and like,
Are they coming back?
is what I get. I know.
I've been looking for one of the mangoes.
He's got an ugly fruit. Is she bringing in fruit? It's gonna be really, I don't know, acidic. A what? An orange is sour? It's a grapefruit and an orange together. What is it?
Oh, then this one, sorry.
No,
Or did you have one?
with me.
Oh, okay.
L-I. You ain't got it. You ugly bitch. How you got or is it?
What did you decide? Do we need to make a motion to come out of executive session?
Yeah, you need to come back into open meeting.
Okay.
I will make a motion to come out of closed session.
Motion by Hope, second by Bobby. Hannah?
Yes.
Bobby?
Yes.
Hope?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Jason, yes. All right. So, first off, I want to thank the four people who are interested in sitting on the board. We really appreciate your interest, and we invite you, the three of you who don't happen to be on the board, to come be a part of the community committee, thank you, for the superintendent selection. We value your dedication to the district, and we really appreciate you coming forward. We had a lot of discussion, back and forth, while we were in closed session. And I don't know for sure if we really even came to an agreement on anything. So, with that, I will make a motion that we nominate Mary Mosier to fulfill the board seat.
I'll second it.
Motion by Jason, second by Bobby. Do we have discussion on this? I think
I was gonna say,
we've discussed this out. All right, voting then. Bobby?
No.
Hope?
no,
Mark?
No.
Jason, yes. Hannah?
No.
Motion failed.
I'll make a motion to nominate Brady Johnson.
Second.
Motion by Mark, second by Bobby. Hope?
no,
Mark?
Yes.
Jason, no. Hannah?
Yes.
And Bobby?
No.
Sorry. So that one failed. I will make a motion to nominate JW.
Second.
Motion by me, second by Bobby. Mark?
No.
Jason, yes. Hannah?
No.
Bobby?
No.
Hope?
yes,
Motion didn't carry.
I'll make the final motion to nominate Julia.
I'll second.
Motion by Hope. Second by Hannah. Jason, no. Hannah?
Yes.
Bobby?
Yes.
Hope?
Yes,
Mark?
Yes.
Motion carried. You wanna come join us? All right, new business, consider approving the external auditor's report for fiscal year 2023, 2024 as presented. Do we need a motion before we discuss on this?
It would be best, yeah.
Okay, I'll make the motion that we approve the external auditor's report for fiscal year 23, 24 as presented.
I'll second it.
Motion by Jason, second by Hope. Open for discussion.
Well, I will share a little bit if no one else, if I hope I don't step on any toes. But the external audit is something that's mandated under law. Schools have to have an external audit, have a CPA come in and look through our books, and they audit mostly financials, but they audit some other things too, like attendance, to make sure that we're not lying about the students in attendance in our facilities and those sort of things. So it's been pretty straightforward. Dana F. Cole out of Grand Island office has been our auditors since before I was here. So I think at least 13, 14, 15 years. Like everything that's a skilled labor, there's an increasing supply-demand issue, meaning there's more demand than there is supply. And I've heard that some districts have had to actually go to the state auditor's office to get their audit done because they can't find an auditing firm that will pick them up. And so just like so many things, it's just there's shortages. But One thing I noticed, my big one red flag, and hopefully this is only like a one-time correction, but as I was going through, getting ready, working on the budgets last year, I started looking at what they had audited as our closing balance. And it wasn't, it was like, there's no way we had that. We started the year with that much money. So it was artificially inflated, didn't match what was on the books, it didn't match what was in the bank account. So it turns out that due to some turnover in their office, and it was about the same time Nathan McHenry quit here, they had done some journal entries at the end of the year, and those weren't getting done anymore. So I said, we gotta get this fixed. And so we were kind of a pain in their side for several months, but it does. Everything matches now, and those numbers are I just hope they don't drop us for future years, because we're a small entity for them in terms of the size of they used to put us on a 3-year agreement, and now they just do it year by year. I think specifically for that reason, so that they can trim districts when they don't want to do them anymore, and can trim clients. So anyway, I feel like they've done a good job. We have the new team that they have working with us. I feel like it's done a really good job working with us. But that's why it's been so late. That's why the audit came so late, is because they were getting those issues resolved. And I feel comfortable with it. It's really just more of a formality at this point to accept it, because it is, like I said, required under law. But I felt like you should know that they had to make that correction. They had to restate starting balance for the 22-23 fiscal year, because it was too high. And you don't want that to go out. I mean, very few people will look at your audit, but if they do, you don't want them to, particularly like the senators, they don't want you to think you have more money than what you actually have. So that's corrected. And that was strictly the general fund. That wasn't any other fund.
Does anybody have any questions?
I don't.
Mark, Bobby, Julia? Thank you, Brian. All right, so we have a motion by myself and a second by Hope to approve the audit. The external auditor's report for fiscal year 2023-2024 is presented. Hannah?
Yes.
Bobby?
Yes.
Hope?
Yes.
Julia?
Yes.
Mark?
Yeah.
Jason, yes. New business B, consider renewing the Board of Education's membership in the Nebraska Association of School Boards for the 2025-2026 school year as presented.
I will make the motion to approve the Board of Education's membership in the Nebraska Association School Board for 2025-26 as presented.
Okay.
Is that you, Bobby?
Yes, sorry.
Aye. Motion by Hope, second by Bobby. Discussion?
I don't have any. No.
What all comes with this membership?
Great question. So I will lead with my little spiel that I put in my notes, is that as a matter of just the cost, this is easily something that can be put on consent agenda, and it doesn't need a standalone action item. The reason why I think it's good for board affiliated organizations, so that it is from time to time, these organizations have to take a stance on issues. And if there was ever a point where you felt like the organization was going in a direction vastly different than yours, then, that would be something, it's just a good time to discuss that. I don't feel like that's the case with the School Boards Association. They represent all schools, ranging from the smallest schools to OPS. So they see a wide variety of issues, and because on some of those really controversial issues, it's hard for them to take a stance, because they might alienate some of their membership. So generally they advocate, so they do have an advocacy branch from a what do they do for you individually as a board member. That's like Marcia Herring and the different trainings they do, the state conference every year, and some of the different trainings they offer for individual board members. From a functional standpoint, and the number one reason why really we don't have a choice is they are, the ALICAP board, the ALICAP is our liability insurance. They contract with Sedgwick, who is our, the company that has our liability insurance. And so they are a nonprofit governing board that's a subsidiary of the School Boards Association. So if you want to participate in their nonprofit liability insurance pool, you have to be a member of the School Boards Association. If we had to go out and get that same liability insurance, especially with our claim history in recent years, on things like gas line leaks and sewer backup, and those sort of things, I bet it would be
astronomical.
A lot, and they can't kick us out because we're a founding member. We were a founding member, original 1990 member of ALICAP. Now, we weren't part of the working comp pool because they didn't have that off the get-go. It was initially just general liability and structures. We joined that, we were a founding member of the original pool, and then it was when I was on the board, Grizzle was still the superintendent, so it was about 2013-14, we added the liability portion. But yeah, it's a situation where once, you wouldn't want to leave that group. So I think they probably save us 20 to 30,000, and they give their dividends back in the form of premium reductions. I think what was about 90,000 was our total workman's comp and general liability, and that's vehicles and everything, which is a big number. But I have a feeling EMC is pretty much the private sector or the private insured. Some districts still are with EMC, but more and more districts leave EMC and join ALICAP just because price they can't compete. That was more than you wanted, I'm sure.
That's plenty. Sounds like it's gonna pay itself off. So.
Any further discussion? Hearing none? All right, we'll go ahead and vote. Bobby?
Yes.
Vote.
Yes.
Julia?
Yep.
Mark?
Yes.
Jason, yes. Hannah?
Yes.
Motion carried. Last item on the agenda.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Bobby, second by Mark. Hope? Julia?
Yep.
Mark?
Yes.
Jason, yes. Hannah?
Yes.
And Bobby? And Bobby.
Yes, sorry, yeah.